All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. Weren't expecting that, were you? We're getting close to spring, so okay. 2 days ago, ice storm, raining. Day before, 2 days before that, raining. Today, 4 inches of snow. Freaking March. In like a lion, out like a lion. Supposed to be in like a lion, out like a lamb. And I got more, but I got bin number 16 full. I had to kind of doing it flying elbow to get everything in there, but it's not heavy. It's just bulky stuff, eh? So progress, slow but sure. Okay, so World War III update. I hope you guys are sick of these things by now. Because war sucks. But yeah, day 14, 2 week recap. last night, something like last night there was big strikes going on. I guess they're getting better at censoring. So, like the mainstream media is out there saying, it's hard to tell what's really going on. Don't just go with what you see first, because they're really, really worried about the propaganda on the sinking of aircraft carriers, right? Rightfully so, because a lot of people are focused on the aircraft carriers. I'm like, no, the tankers. The tankers is what's going to win or lose the war. The Americans have already lost. They don't know it yet, but they've already lost. And I'm not saying that because I hate Americans or whatever. I'm just saying if I'm a military planner, I'm looking at this. Yes, the Iranians, okay, yeah, they've done 15,000 strikes against Iran. They're really hammering it to them. But they're not hitting anything of real significance. They really aren't. Just look at the footage of what's getting blown up. Oh, yeah, but we destroyed their navy and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you destroyed a sector of their navy, sure, the big ships. But all you proved is that warships are obsolete. Giant warships are like, when Trump, well, he's not going to be around long enough to see it. He's going down one way or another. Like, it's the end of Trump. This is going to not only end his presidency, like, this is going to be, it's definitely going to be remembered in history. He's going to be the most remembered president in history. That's, I think, a done deal, unless somebody comes along and does something even more radical than him. God help us. Because it's never good radical. It's always bad radical, right? It's always, let's do something really horrible so everybody remembers it in the history books. Yeah. Okay, stop that. Just stop it. Be boring. Please be boring. But no, look, there's talks about the 25th Amendment. There always is with every president. Every president is a treasonist. Every president is this, and I get that. But this is actual treason, okay? It's not just, like, they're not going to have to use lawfare against him. He's actually, like, the crimes against humanity against the Iranian people, despite all the propaganda you're seeing, and you got to take this propaganda with a grain of salt, okay? Can we say that everybody in Iran loves the Iranian regime? Probably not, right? But you could find this in every country. Like, there's a guy in Ottawa. He's always like, he's still on the Trump train. I'm like, like as a Canadian, I'm like, because he hates Carney so much, he's like just blame everything Trump does on Carney. It's Carney's fault that Trump did this. It's Carney's fault. Everything is like, it's just, this guy's so black-pilled. And he had a chance. He had a chance where he could be, if he got off the like, he's too rebel news. You know what I mean? He's not in rebel news, but he's like too rebel news. He's not a Zionist, but the problem with him is guys like him is like, it's the same thing with the Alberta separatists, right? If we become a part of the 51st state, everything's going to be better. No. Like, they'll look at all the bad things that are happening in Canada and not even bat an eye about all the bad things happening in the States. And look, what I'm telling you, and I've been telling everybody, I know they don't believe me, but I've been telling you guys, it's not a left or right issue anymore. This is now, the Titanic has hit the iceberg, and it's a survival game now. It doesn't matter if you're on the radical left or radical right. It doesn't matter. We are now headed for a global depression, the likes that the world has never seen. And it's all going to be pinned on one guy, or maybe, in a couple of his right-hand men. They do this all the time. They're not going to blame the Jews. They're not going to blame all these Zionist donors. They're going to blame Trump. They're going to blame like Rubio and Vance and Hegseth and stuff like that. They're going to blame those guys. That's who they're going to throw under the bus. And when they do, like you have Klaus Schwab out there, kind of almost gleaming that, all the destruction going on. Like, I'm not even going to start on him. These people are all evil. They're all in on it. But the media, you see all these happy, celebrating Iranians. Okay, I'm not saying there isn't celebrating Iranians. Because when they take out Trump, you're going to see all these people, Americans in the street going, we're liberated. You know what I mean? Now, all these Iranians that are liberated and in the United States, you have to understand, it's always going to be a female, okay? A female Iranian, right? But what she's not going to tell you is that she's half Israeli. I've caught that like 4 times already. So, okay, there's an Iranian girl going on about Iranian repression. And don't get me wrong, these are oppressive regimes. I'm not playing that down. But what I'm saying is they turned a blind eye to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, the rest of the Middle East, Israel. But it's Iran is the oppressor, right? It's all bullshit. It's Middle East. They're all oppressors. They're all nuts. But anyway, yeah. So like half the time when you see these women that are Iranian women that have escaped the oppression of Iran, almost always they have some sort of Mossad, Zionist, Jewish connection. It'll come out. It'll slip. Because somebody will talk about like Islam and anti-Semitism. Oh, well, I'm part Jewish too. It's like, oh, well, there you go. So just beware of the propaganda. It's thick. It's full of bullshit. Bullshit is juicy, big, and easy to consume, right? So there's a lot of that. That said, I'm not saying there's nobody that's legitimate or like everybody always has to go hyperbolic all one way or the other. I don't know where this idiocracy comes from, where it's just like, well, if it's that, then the other guy's got to be 100% bad. This guy's 100%. Like, not everything's a fucking Hollywood movie. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's no good guys. And that's the case with this war. Like it doesn't mean I support the Iranian regime with what's going on. What it means is that this is an illegal war, technically, because there's so many loopholes that allow these fucking freaks of nature like Trump and Biden and Obama and Clinton and the Bushes to go to war. Their difference was the Bushes did it legally. Like they crossed the T's and they dot the I's. Obama did it legally. Cross the T's, dot the I's. So were they illegal wars? Technically, no. They were within the war powers of, I guess they call it the Department of, instead of the Department of Defense, the Department of War. Geez, there's nothing, like that, like people, oh, that sounds good and strong. Yeah, that tells you the guy's a fucking maniac. You know what I mean? Like we moved the War Measures Act to the Emergency Preparedness Act because it's like, holy fuck, that sounds psychotic, right? Because it is. Sure, that might be what it is, but it's like kind of like when you have a kid, you don't like your kid, you don't tell them. Yeah, you're not supposed to tell them, like Homer Simpson said, you're not supposed to tell them. Regret having you, you're not supposed to tell them. Well, that's kind of what's going on, right? So the thing here is that the propaganda, like anything AI, if you're listening to anything AI, because there's a lot of shills, most of it comes from India. For whatever reason, it's all these channels from India. Like, just fucking don't listen to them. Some of them are a little bit accurate, but almost all of them, like every night, India, the main Indian propaganda channels, every night, they sunk a new aircraft carrier. Like they've been saying that 14 days in a row, and there's no proof of that whatsoever. What there is proof of is that there has been attempts on the aircraft carrier. And there may have been another attempt last night. Was it successful? Was it not successful? No, Washington is not going to tell you the truth. They're going to have the Americans believe that the U.S. military is 100% invincible, even though the bodies are starting to rack up. Okay, if we just go with the official numbers, you're losing a person about every 2 days now. So you have about 11 or 12 people killed. This tanker, okay? This tanker that died in that crashed in a... You're going to love this one. You're going to love this one. It was Boy Scout Survival was talking about it, or one of the other guys anyway, a veteran anyway. And he's like, look, you get these guys that get promoted on ideas, and they're always bad ideas. And somebody came up with the idea to remove the parachutes out of the C-17 Globemasters. I can imagine it would be out of every, because that would save 800 pounds and you could put an extra 800 pounds of whatever in there instead of parachutes. Okay? And they also took them out of the KC-135s. So under no circumstances could these guys have bailed out anyway. Again, you have to understand most of these aircraft are going too fast that you can't bail out of them safely anyway. That's one of the reasons why the C-5 Galaxy, they don't use it for paratroopers. It's too fast. At its slowest speed, that's safe to parachute out of. It's still dangerous, right? Like guys get hurt, get killed, they bounce off the side of the fucking aircraft when they go out if they don't do it right. So they go with the aircraft that are better at it, that can fly a little bit slower, But yeah, so like stuff like that. So would these guys have survived with the parachutes? I doubt it, but if we are to believe the story, what happened is a training KC-135 smacked into the back ass end of another KC-135 and one crashed and 6 people killed. So you have now 11 or 12 people dead on the American side, 1 dead Frenchman. Apparently all our Canadians are safe. They were hit. They were hit on the first day. We're just hearing about it now. So Carney's in deep shit for that. Like, why didn't you say anything? Because they're not going to tell you the truth no matter what country it is, right? They can't. And there's also, you have to understand how Israel controls the United States. The United States has a lot of influence over our government too. It's like, don't you say this out loud or don't you say that out loud or there'll be repercussions. Now that said, Trump is, now putting Canada on an investigation list. Again, this guy wants to go to war with us so fucking bad, it's not funny. It's crazy, and I know a lot of people don't believe it. But yes, these people are insane. Like they're not. You're attributing the idea that the guy's just bluffing because he's just whatever, using it as a negotiating tactic. Yeah, Trump does not know how to negotiate. He is the worst negotiator I've ever fucking seen. Everybody always attributes this 4D chess to him, but it's like everything works out against. Like he destroys everything he touches, turns to shit, right? And again, that's not just being Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, no, just look at the facts. Like, again, I know it's hard to, look, just be honest with yourself. Lose the partisanship, see it for what it is. There are no good guys. Because I don't like Trump does not mean I liked Biden. Biden was just as bad. Well, no, he's not as bad, but he was bad. Biden was the worst president the United States ever had until Trump 2.0. Trump saw that, so I could do a better or worse job, because of his ego, right? Like Trump is doing all this stuff to us on purpose. He's destroying the world economy. Like that's conspiracy. What's happening? He's destroying the world economy. There's these people that will still fucking gaslight. They're like, no, what it is it's a 4D chess so they can do this and then we'll be saved. And there is not a single good world leader out there that's in the favor of it. Like every world leader has failed their people by bar none. There's just some leaders that are more tolerable than others, or don't have enough power to do the bullshit. Like if every world leader right now had the same power of Xi, Putin, or Trump, they would probably all be doing the same shit to us. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if they're on the left or on the right, because they don't work for us. They work for their donor class, and their donor class is these fucking mental cases, right? It's the Davos crowd, it's the Bilderbergers, it's the World Economic Forum people, these crazy fucking nut jobs, stakeholder capitalists, etc., etc., etc. They're just all nuts. They're all fucking nuts, right? But anyway, okay, so you got that many people dead on the official. Now, on the unofficial, if you're to believe the Iranians, they said they've killed probably about 13,500, give or take. But again, you can't verify that either. And then, look, you'll see a few flag-draped coffins coming back. But if you're going to lose like a person every 2 days or so, right? Now, I don't think it's going to stay at that. I think it's going to escalate. Because if you look at the damage done by Iran in 2 weeks, 19 years in Iraq, with all the attacks on the Iraqi bases and Afghanistan, has not inflicted this much damage against the United States military. Maybe body count wise, but like significant losses. Like you lost maybe about 4 or 5 drones in Iraq in 19 years. You've lost 11 in the last. You almost lost a drone a day at last count. And that was a couple of days ago, so it's probably more than that now. So you've lost about 14. You basically, if you add up all the drones that the United States has lost, which is like 300, 400, like $500 million worth of drones, basically. It's been about a drone a day, right? So if you're going to lose a drone a day and you have 20,000 drones, okay, you're good for a while, right? You're good for a while, but that does add up to the taxpayer. You've lost, I think there's like 18, never mind the military stuff, but 18 to probably 21 merchant ships, freighters, tankers, etc., in 14 days. Economically, that is devastating to a country. A tanker, it's not the tanker, it's the, if you spend $30 million, $40 million building a tanker, okay, that's really not that much money. But the money you'll lose of the $400 million to, $1 billion or $2 billion of trade each year, a year, that, it's the replacement factor of that. You know what I mean? Like the broken window theory doesn't work here, where it's like, oh, well, if a kid goes around with a slingshot breaking the windows in the neighborhood, the glass factory will make a lot of money. Yeah, but it doesn't work like that, because then the people that have the windows broken now have to spend more money, and it hurts them, and it makes people scared to spend, right? Because they have to save up. That's what's happening to our economy. That's why we have stagflation. It's because people just don't want to spend because they don't know next week, gas might go up a buck. You know what I mean? And like you're about to see $20 gasoline, guys. I'm not kidding you. You got it was either J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs or BlackRock. One of them. They're in trouble. BlackRock's in trouble. Yeah, BlackRock, the people that own absolutely fucking everything. They're in trouble right now. And they're going to get another bailout, right? Goodbye retirements. You know what I mean? Next to that, I think it's Goldman Sachs are like, yeah, we're going to be hitting $8,000 gold. What did I tell you guys? $8,500 gold? No. I got to revise. $20,000, $25,000 gold by the end of the year. And you got to look at how fast things are being fucked up here, right? 2 to 4 billion people, or 4 to 6 billion people probably starving to death by year's end. World food shortages, again, the damage is done. Even if you were to stop everything right now and go, you're looking at months of delays on so many things, years of delays on so many things, right? When you destroy things from war, you might rebuild a couple of the missiles, like for example, they're pulling more THAAD missile launchers from other areas of the world. There's only 10 of them on the planet now, or 7 of them left on the planet, right? So yeah, it's like they're going to be taking them from Taiwan. Yeah, gee, why should? Yeah. Let's take the THAAD system away from Taiwan. Yeah, good idea. Yeah. Again, Trump could not help Putin and Xi any more than he you got poor Kim Jong-un and his daughter sitting there, and she might be the Black Dragon, or so she's going to be instrumental in the Black Dragon when they show up. Could be maybe one of her children, who knows? But sitting there, they're doing rocket launches. They both look so fucking like we could be launching these at the Americans right now, but no, nobody will attack us. You know what I mean? Like they look so disappointed. Eh? It's like we want to get it launched. Like how come Iran gets all the fun? You know what I mean? It's like, and what a world we live in, I swear to God. But anyway, yeah, so you lost that. You lost 4 to 6 F-15s, 14 drones, 3 THAAD systems, I think 1 or 2 Patriot missile systems, 10 radar systems, including the most powerful radar station in the world. Yeah. You're talking massive losses. Like Iraq and Afghanistan, the Americans didn't lose that much money-wise. They didn't they lost a couple of Apaches, a couple of A-10s, a couple of Blackhawks, maybe an F-16 or 2. But other than that, like, I mean, there's no comparison. There's no comparison of the power that Iran is yielding. And they're not done yet. Every night, oh, that's it, we've won. Like, Trump out there, again, the base believes it because they don't follow anything other than Trump or Fox News or CNN or whatever. Yeah, we've won the war. Yay! So why are you still fighting? It's the same reason when Trump was telling you, I beat ISIS, and they were still fighting all over Syria. I told you that, like, he's been saying that since the second year of his first term. And I've been telling you, no, the man's lying to you. You can clearly see nightly attacks on the, between Assad's guys and the ISIS guys. You know what I mean? But they're all in on it, right? Mob bosses fighting is like, again, as soon as people really understand what I mean by mob bosses fighting, then you understand why it's so evil. Like, it's the evil part is the people that think their guy's the good guy. That's the part that blows my mind. Because if you say anything bad about Trump, well, you just got Trump derangement syndrome, or you're a Democrat. I'm not. I'm a conservative. Trump is not conserving fucking anything. He's destroying everything. He's not conserving anything. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, he's tacoed on just about everything, and that's bad enough. But it's worse than that. Like, it's worse than just, okay, not following through with the promises, but doing the absolutely opposite of what you promised. No more new wars. As soon as he hit Soleimani or struck Syria the first time, I remember John Gage talking about this. He goes, he wasn't off the Trump train right away. But when he saw basically Trump do the same thing Obama did, and everybody was outraged when Obama struck Syria with, you remember the Ollie Burks launching cruise Tomahawks at Assad's guys, right? And everyone's like, no new wars. What the fuck? Obama was supposed to be a peace president. He said he campaigned on no new wars, right? They all do this, right? So Obama did it twice. Everybody was pissed, right? And rightfully so. Then Trump did it. It was like, oh, well, the Trump people started making excuses. Well, yeah, but, that Soleimani guy, the ISIS guys, we got to get rid of the ISIS guys, right? Soleimani was the number one guy getting rid of the ISIS guys, who was Israel and the United States and, Germany, UK, us, probably. We were all arming the ISIS guys. USAID, USAID, that's, you got ISIS guys standing there right in the fucking tents. Big USAID on there. Al-Baghdadi, again, CIA, Mossad asset. They killed the guy, fucking 10 times? He's probably still alive. Probably hanging out with Epstein or something. But anyway, the thing is that all the wars track back to Israel, okay? I can go on and on and on. I think I've done enough Jew and Israel bashing. But I mean, I think everybody kind of knows right now, right? So, and until they stop, they're going to get us all killed. They're fucking nuts, right? Is it all of them? No, it doesn't have to be all of them, but there's enough of them in power that is very dangerous, very dangerous. Now, the Zionist evangelicals, they are not Christians. Do not call them Christians. The left, because the left hates Christianity, they're like Christian nationalists. They're not Christian nationalists. They are not Christian. They are Zionists. Listen to them. When all their hate preachers do is sit there and tell you how to kill Israel's enemies, just listen to them. Listen to Paula White going on her fucking, going into her fucking rants there, chanting. I mean, it's demonic. It's purely fucking demonic. She is not a Christian. They think they're Christians, but they're not Christians. They're Zionists. The Zionist donor class, I mean, the Adelsons and stuff like that. I mean, if you ever listen to Sheldon Adelson when he was alive, hopefully that shitbag's burning in hell. When you joke about nuking Iran, okay, the first time he says that, everybody laughs. Second time, yeah, we heard the joke before. Third time, it's like, I think he's serious. Well, Trump, hello, Zionist evangelical doomer. I've been telling you that since the middle of his second term, right? Have I been wrong? No. Do you see any evidence where I've been wrong? Of course not, right? So it means, these people believe in end times prophecy. Just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean they don't. And they have the power and the money and blah, 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 right? So, yeah, there's that. There's that old thing, right? So with that going on, you have to factor in how nuts this is going to get and how nuts it is already. But the miscalculation, this is what I've been telling you guys since 2010 on my older channel. When I used to do the World War III updates there, I told you guys that Iran, they heard General Wesley Clark. I cannot beat this drum loud enough. They heard General Wesley Clark on TV, now worldwide TV, saying the quiet part out loud. That say, look, the Bush administration came into me. They said we're going after 7 countries. We're going to war. And he goes, with who? And the guy was like, I don't know. And then he comes back. Look, yeah, we're going to war with a bunch of people. How many? Well, we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. Why? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like the guy was completely baffled. And I admire his honesty of saying that. Now, don't get me wrong, that guy's a Zionist evangelical as well. Maybe he's not evangelical, but he is a Zionist as well. But the thing is he probably wasn't let in on the plan, so he said the quiet part out loud. That's why, like all these people, the deep state, there is no deep state. It's all openly admitted shit. Almost every piece of information I give you comes from the horse's mouth. It's not some Alex Jones or David Icke or lizard people. No, it's Trump said this and he done this. Obama said this, he did this. Okay, so the second time Trump struck Syria with cruise missiles, remember Andrew John Gates, he goes, I'm out. And at that point, I was like, his arguments became my arguments. I never talked to the man, but I listened to him a few times back in the day. And we were in alignment. And the guy was a veteran, right? Okay, and he was all fucked up from the Gulf and everything. Most veterans come back fucked up, just so you know. Like these guys that, like the one guy there was sitting there in the hospital all full of shrapnel, who had the one soldier, she was killed right by, like the fucking drone basically smashed her in the face, so she was fucking obliterated. You know what I mean? He said she was right behind him. I don't know. She must have been a good distance behind him, but yeah. So he's fucked up for life. He'll be traumatized for life, right? Why? Because I'm on an American base. We've got the THAAD air defense system. It's 100% foolproof. Then you find out in war, and every veteran will tell you this. The labs are great until the fucking RPG comes through them, and then it just becomes a pressurized capsule, right? And it just vaporizes everybody. So they're good till they're not. The equipment's good till it's not. The A-10 is the most indestructible aircraft probably ever known to man, and they get shot down. you know what I mean? Like between a Frogfoot and an A-10, like if you're going to get hit by a missile, you want to be in a Frogfoot, an Su-25, or an A-10, right? Those are going to be the only 2 aircraft that are likely to take a shit hit, or P-47. You know what I mean? That's about the only aircrafts that you could be in that, and probably survive, right? P-47 is World War II, but still, I mean, in or B-17 maybe, they were able to take a good shit kicking too. But the point I'm making is that the equipment is never as good as advertised. None of it. Yes, the Americans have the best equipment known to man, but it's still not good enough. Like 1960s equipment against state-of-the-art modern equipment is at a slight disadvantage. That's it. A slight disadvantage, not a total disadvantage. Radar's radar, just how, where is its, maximum envelope. And then a lot of people don't believe that because they think everything's like a video game. Oh, there's the enemy. We detected the SAM site 200 miles away on the ground, and we locked onto it. We fired a missile and from safe distance, and we're good. If it was that easy, right? Yeah, it's not that easy. Air defense systems are hard to find, even in the open desert, let alone mountainous fucking ridges where the missiles are coming out of the fucking mountain themselves. Like they're literally firing rockets outside, like through like, it's like getting them going through a chimney, right? They're basically silos. You can't find these things. There's thousands of them. They've got 47 different regions in Iran where these missile forces are. Like, you're never going to find all that. That would take on. These are like the equivalent of the Viet Cong tunnels. But the difference is These fuckers are made out of mountain, and they're full of rockets. Long range rockets. That's why they couldn't, when the B-52s were leveling the Ho Chi Minh Trail, they couldn't figure out how they, they'd kill a lot of Viet Cong. They killed like 1 million Viet Cong, but the thing is that they'd barrage an area, and that's like, okay, nobody could survive, 10 B-52s just clearing the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And all of a sudden, these little fuckers start popping up out of the ground, like little toadstools. They pop up. Hey, got my AK-47. Yeah, you eat my rice. Yeah. I get you, Wandai. Yeah. The Viet Cong were pretty fucking savage. That's the best soldiers ever in modern history. Every special operation team out there, their training is based on what they learned from the Viet Cong in Vietnam. Like how could these guys barefoot running through the jungle, their jungle, beat the mighty United States that was so technologically superior? How did they lose? Because these guys, number one, they didn't wear cologne, they didn't smoke cigars and shit like that they could smell. Like the Viet Cong, when they'd ask them, they say, yeah, we'd smell you guys before we'd even see you. They'd smell your cologne, they'd smell, you know what I mean? And it took a long time for the Americans to by the time they figured this out, the war was almost over. But these guys would crawl 2 days in the mud, covered in tall grass, and just to pop up right in front of you, the dead of night, shoot, overrun your position. And it wasn't one guy doing it; it was like hundreds of guys, 1,000 guys. They would take 2 days just to fucking crawl through the mud without being detected. It was unbelievable what they were, and they'd eat bugs. They knew where all the water was. They could travel just a pocket full of rice, a bag full of ammo, and a rusted out AK. And then they had it AK and SKS caches all over the rice paddies. They were unbeatable. They were unbeatable, and it was low tech work no matter what. Now they did have some missiles, okay, and they were shooting down the most advanced SAM Hunter at the time would have been the A6 Intruder, right? That was the most advanced electronic warfare aircraft at the time, right? And even they got shot down, okay? And when you think about how low of, the average missile might have had only 11 or 12% chance of shooting you down, whether it was air to air or surface to air, right? So it was very low. And even at that, the Americans took lots of losses, even being technologically superior. Fast forward to today. The difference between the technological advancement of the Vietnamese and the Americans back then is like World War I vs 1950. That's World War I, World War II. They were 1950s military equipment at best, which was still basically World War I, World War II stuff. Right? Against, 1970s equipment, right? Right now, what you've got is 2010 to present technology against aging technology and brand new state-of-the-art technology. So the gap isn't anywhere near as big as what it was, say, with Desert Storm, which was predominantly a 1950s military to 1960s military, and their high-tech stuff was from the 1970s against the 1990s military. Again, that was a much bigger gap. Now we're talking less. We're talking similar generational stuff. You're talking the capabilities of electronic warfare, anti-ship missiles, the drones. These freaking what's called not Bacteria drones. Shahed drones are probably there's a 1 in 3 chance they kill you. you know what I mean? They have a 1 in 3 chance hitting their target. It's the most effective weapons that have ever been fielded in battle has been drones. They're more effective than bullets. They've been more effective than artillery, more effective than cruise missiles. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable how accurate these things are. Are they dead accurate? No, but they're so cheap to produce. Again, Ukraine, you've got $300 drones basically taking out $40 million tanks and $4 million tanks. Like the tanks are now obsolete, pretty much. I mean, they still have their use, but like you're not seeing tank. Look, the Ukrainians had something like 2,000 or 4,000 actual tanks. Now, I'm not talking APCs. I'm talking big barrel, two big tracks on a turret. 125 millimeter main gun, tank to tank, right? T-72s, T-72s, T-80s, whatever. T-63, probably the odd T-55. Versus like T-72, T-80, T-90, right? And the Russians had like 12,000 tanks, right? God knows what they can actually pull back out of mothballs, but they have about 12,000 tanks, right? There might be down to about 8,000 tanks now. Why? Because the drones were just fucking destroyed. So it might even be less than that. Why? Everybody was expecting to see like the Battle of the Bulge 2.0 everywhere. The last big major tank battle was basically Azerbaijan and Armenia back in 2019, where 350 tanks met at T-72s and T-55s and T-63s, typical Soviet stuff. There might have been the odd T-80 met out in the middle of the field. That was the largest tank battle since World War II. Just so you know, okay. And Ukraine, again, the drone, and that's where we saw the Israeli I forget what they call that drone, but basically it's what the Shahed drone was built off of, because some flew into from Armenia or from Azerbaijan, they flew into Iran, and the Iranians actually basically jammed them, captured them, reverse engineered, which is ironic because basically the Israelis are getting beat by their own technology. It's kind of funny. Not half funny, but bizarre funny, you know what I mean? So the thing is that the thing is that the drone has changed battle forever, right? So Ukraine, you've got like World War I trench warfare mixed in with cyber punk drone killing warfare mixed with artillery and mortars, right? And that is the predominant. And then air defense and cruise missiles and rockets and shit like that. So battlefields don't look like they did in World War I, World War II, but America is designed, it's the ultimate refinement of the World War II military. Aircraft carriers, fighter jets, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the effectiveness of it is going to be a lot less than what people think. Like, day one of this war, okay, the Iranians, here's what Trump was expecting. The same thing as last time, okay? So, strike one. Trump takes out Soleimani, okay? The Iranians wait about 2 weeks or whatever it was, or a month, and they said, okay, we're going to do a measured response, we're going to hit you back. But it's going to be a measured response. So they picked two air bases in Iraq, or two American bases in Iraq. They fired 11 rockets per base. I think two rockets missed. And they basically leveled. They gave the heads up that morning. They fired low-level rockets. They hit they leveled a whole bunch of buildings. Of course, the West played it down, but when Trump and the two generals came out of their meeting, those guys looked fucking like they were white. They were like, oh my God, the Iranians, a country actually hit us back. Because this assumption that we're so powerful, it would be the end of you if you hit us back. We would just end you rightly. Like, you have no choice. And it's like, these fuckers hit us back. I don't believe it. Right? You took out their number one general, and Trump going on about how evil Soleimani is, but when you do the research, I'm sure he wasn't a nice guy. I mean, no guy at that level is going to be a nice guy. but he was stability in the region, kind of like going after, because the problem is he was going after ISIS, but ISIS was the proxy group to overthrow. Look, they used ISIS and Al Qaeda, now Nusra Front and the Free Syrian Army, and the SDF Kurds are still there. They used those guys because Obama couldn't get the draft. He couldn't get Americans to go into another war. They were still stuck in a quagmire in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like he got elected on not undoing George Bush's war machine. He didn't. He didn't even fucking try. In fact, Obama still has, again, if you want crimes against humanity, more people have been killed under drones. Like George Bush should be charged with crimes against humanity, right? George Bush did 53 drone attacks killing civilians, right? Obama did over 1,200 and something. Obama still has more people killed by drone attack around the world, including women and children. It's always we're going after the terrorists, right? But almost every time they kill women and children, right? Because we're going to war for democracy, freedom, and women and children. But they kill more women and children than ever. The left turned a total blind eye. Why? Because we got our biracial black guy, BIPOC guy in power, and you're just a racist bigot if you don't like him or disagree with him on anything. You know how the left is, right? But anyway, I digress. But yeah, he killed more people. He got away with it. George Bush got away with killing 1.5 million Iraqis. His dad got away with it. Because he was just continuing his dad's war, right? And all these administrations got away with it. Why? Because the people didn't see it. The internet back in 2001. We didn't have we had MySpace, I think, in 2001. Maybe not. Social media wasn't Facebook didn't exist yet. That didn't come along until 2007, right? So by the time the war gets going, it just becomes, the war on terror becomes a thing where it just becomes, okay, you have to, okay, give you an idea. Like back in the 90s, okay, without a passport, I could go to the States and back the same day. They would just take down my name, my driver's license number, and that's it. Right now, after 9/11, no. You need passport, you need a visa, you need this, you need that, whatever. So the problem you get, okay, is that you have a situation where people are complacent because they're comfortable, because it's not on my shore, and I support the troops, blah, blah, blah. I believe everything the government tells me because we're just fighting terrorists. And there was really nothing to counter that. Then your Iraqi veterans started coming home, and your Afghanistan veterans, and they started telling you, no, in Afghanistan, I watched over the opium fields for Halliburton. It was, we built 3 schools and a couple of bridges and a couple of desalination plants, but we blew up fucking half the country. You know what I mean? Everybody's seeing those memes going around Facebook right now where it's me trying my best not to litter for the planet, and the government fucking, here's Iran, fucking biblical fire, fucking burning oil, and how much health problems is that going to cause, right? Depleted uranium, everything, white phosphorus, it's fucking evil, right? So anyway, 2008 we get the collapse. Bankers get bailed out again. More war, right? Not the whole 9/11 thing was pretty much an inside job. At this point, if you're denying it, come on, just look into it for 5 seconds. You'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Oh, it's all conspiracy theory. Yes, you're believing the propaganda. You're believing that's what they call. That's why when you see on the news when they interview somebody that might have something important to say, that's why they have to delegitimize them. That's why they use buzzwords. The whole point of buzzwords is to put the prefaces. Okay, we're talking to a conspiracy theorist now. It's no, you're just talking to a guy that noticed shit. But you're all conspiracy theorists, so I can't take them serious. That's what the Soviets called it, revolutionary thought. Now they call you far right extremists. The same tool. So anyway, 2007 we get YouTube and we get Facebook, right? But they're in their infancy. You can say what you want. People are starting to see the conspiracy stuff, but they just dismiss it as conspiracy, right? Because they don't really see it. They're not feeling it yet, even though in 2008 a lot of people felt it. By 2011, you had the Arab Spring, you had all that, right? And the beginnings of the 2010, the Americans basically started to destabilize Syria. By 2012, they started destabilizing Ukraine. Getting the Maidan protests. They had Israeli Mossad there. They had the CIA guys there. Victoria Nuland, Samantha Powers, you name them all. Yatsenuk, George Soros. Basically you had Ukrainian generals saying, yeah, we got taken over by like the Zionist bankers. Basically, and they weren't wrong, and they kept promising the Ukrainians, oh yeah, you're going to be a part of NATO, you'll be a part of the EU. All you have to do is overthrow your government. That's it, right? Russia said, don't do it. Medvedev back in 2010, he was very clear with Obama, do not expand NATO. The conflict will be, will be edging towards a conflict that humanity won't be able to survive. And that was what Medvedev said when he was president. And then Putin was prime minister, he was president. Every now and then Putin takes a break, right? So it's like, okay, I'll let Medvedev have it for 4 years or 5 years or whatever it is. And then Putin got back in again in 2012, and he's been in there ever since, and he'll be in there until probably the day he dies. And then after Putin, the problem is they've built Putin up so much, they don't know who to replace him with because, like Stephen Harper said, our former prime minister, or one of our former prime ministers, like when they asked him about Putin, he goes, meeting Putin, he goes, Putin is a real life Bond villain. Like that's the best way to fucking and he has that persona. Like he's a KGB guy, right? The KGB, now FSB, they basically run the country. Them and the mob, right? But the Russians saw it coming when they got the Sochi Olympics. They saw the Maidan thing coming a mile away, right? So that all plays out. We know what happened there. And then Libya was taken out by 2015. We have the migrant crisis. The migrant crisis we're about to see. Like, people thought, like, the migrant crisis was bad then. You're about to see, like, 1 million people a month coming into Europe. It's going to be fucking biblically, like people are going to be murdering people for food. Like it's going to be fucking unbelievable. Death ditches everywhere, genocide everywhere. And yes, the world elites will be on the side of the migrants. They always are. Why? Because they want to kill us. Sometimes you don't have to overthink this. It's not really conspiracy when it's like, okay, it's not like it's not paranoia when they're really trying to get you. You know what I mean? I think most people could probably figure it out. But what I'm getting at too is that even with all that, okay, even with all that, we get to 2019, 2020, 2022, you get the extension of everybody thinks that's when the Ukraine-Russia war started. No, that's just when the direct invasion of Ukraine started. But Russia and Ukraine were in a civil war, in the Donbass up to that point. So Russia finally goes in, right? Syria finally falls. Not long after. It happened fast when it finally did happen, right? Because the idea was to tie Russia up so much that it couldn't defend, Syria, because they started helping the Syrians in 2015. So did the Iranians, right? So this was going against the Israeli Greater Israel Project stuff, right? Which goes back to the Odigian plan of 1984, 1986, which the Greater Israel Project, which everybody kept calling us anti-Semites and conspiracy theorists, and now they're just like openly talking about it. It's crazy, right? You're always validated as a conspiracy theorist. Like we're like 10-0, you know what I mean? Like if it comes from a conspiracy theorist, chances are it's going to be true. You know what I mean? Because it's not theories, it's conspiracy fact. And the number one contributors to the evidence is the people themselves, like the politicians themselves. Like they say the quiet part out loud because they have to tell you they're psychopaths, and some of them are messianic, Satanists, whatever. And they basically, it's a part. It's one of those things that they have to tell you. Like in the Jewish religion, they have to tell you what they're going to do to you. It's kind of like manufactured consent, but it's like if I told you that I'm going to destroy you, okay, and I destroy you, well, that's on you. You know, I won't. I forget what they call it. There's a name for it, and it's basically so that they don't suffer the karma. So it's like I told you and you didn't do anything about it, so too bad for you, right? That's their reasoning. Where good, honest people don't look at the world like that. That you know what I mean. So that's why it's so unbelievable that they would do this to us on purpose. Look, the Epstein class, as they're now being called, and rightfully so, because pretty much everybody involved in this is involved with Epstein, right? And it's not just Donald Trump. Like the left makes it all about Donald Trump. Like they care about Epstein now, when the right wingers have been. We've been telling you since Comet Ping Pong and Pizzagate that these pedophile rings were real, right? Because it was released FBI files that told us, right? And they, oh no, that's conspiracy theories. That's the Alex Jones people. It's like, no, that's the FBI telling you that they found, basically a massive pedophile ring. Then that led, under the Obama administration, led to the Epstein stuff, right? And Obama did nothing about it. Why? I mean, if you wanted to be the most celebrated human being on the planet, okay, and somebody handed you a list of every major pedophile pretty much around the world and a link to all the pedophile rings pretty much around the world, you're not going to take that? You know what I mean? Why? What do they have on you? You know what I mean? So Trump not taking it, like, and again, that's why I said Trump didn't take it, is because they got something on him. I didn't think he diddled babies or ate babies or whatever, but some of these Epstein file things are just really, 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 really disturbing, of the stuff that they've, did Ellen DeGeneres actually consume Anne Hake? I don't know. Because there is a lot of bullshit out there too. You never know. But is it impossible? No, because these people are sick, right? Yeah. So with that going on, okay, everybody thinks this war is just to hide that. No, they don't care, because the judges and lawyers don't prosecute. Like they'll prosecute a person like you or me for hate speech or something like that. Because that's, the far right is the big extreme, right? But they won't go after, like Pat Bondi said, look, we can't go after all the Epstein people because it'll collapse the system. So what does that tell you? It tells you just about every judge and lawyer and anybody of any power is in there, right? And yes, Epstein met with Netanyahu too, surprise. Why? Because he's a fucking Mossad agent. His stepdad's a Mossad agent. His wife worked for the Mossad, but there's no chance that's conspiracy. Like Occam's razor here, guys. The simplest answer is usually the correct one. So yes, they don't. Trump doesn't care about that. It's the same thing with Eric Holder under the Obama administration. We can't put the bankers in jail because it would collapse the system. Well, maybe we need to collapse this fucking system. You know what I mean? If it's that corrupt, if we're gonna let bad things happen to kids, that's what that's should be enough to say, okay, you know what? If a few government workers are gonna lose their jobs, too bad. You know what I mean? It's worth it. We'll find something else to do. But on top of that, they've got us in a biblical war, like literally Armageddon. They're going for Armageddon. You've got all these rabbis out there saying that, well, maybe if a rocket could, because they're not allowed to destroy the Temple of the Rock, or the Dome of the Rock, not the Dome of the Rock, but the dome, the third Temple Mount. But if a rocket were to stray and hit it, because again, the Jews will always find a way to like even cheat their own religion. They're very sneaky. They're very sneaky. You got to give them that. I know it's not all of them, but like it is. It's just it's so disgusting what they're doing, right? And the fact that most of them are incapable of self-reflection. They're like, no, we're always the victims. We're always the victim. No, you're not always the victim. Something, like communism, that's the Jews. Progressivism, that's the Jews. Global finance and usury and economic collapse, that's the Jews. You know what I mean? The porn industry, that's the Jews. Again, the list goes on and on and on. You know what I mean? All these wars, who profits the most? The Jewish companies, right? So it's just you can't. I know it's not all them, but it's always them. Every bad policy that seems to come out always seems to have a Stina Steinberg running it. Not all the time, but most of the time, right? So you have to call it out. You have to call it out. And if that makes you an anti-Semite or whatever that even fucking means, I'll call it out every time because I'm an honest man. I'm not gonna lie to you because can't be politically incorrect. Doesn't mean I hate everybody. It just means, hey, I'm gonna call out your bad behavior. And if you can't handle that, that's on you. Maybe you need to self-reflect on why people are doing this thing. Why do you think the Jews have been expelled 109 times? And we're now living in what I call the 110th expulsion of the Jews. Look, you're seeing attacks all over the place, just like I said would happen. Been telling you this was coming for years. We're also in the 10th Crusade. And trust me, that one's going to kick off pretty violently. Yes, technically it starts in 2010. It's mainly in protest form of, anti-immigration groups and stuff like that, what they call the far right, if you want to call them that. But at the end of the day, no, we're going to see like clashes of culture in we've never seen before, right? Violence you've never seen before. Unfortunately. And there's no stopping it now. Especially once the migrant crisis 2.0 kicks in, right? So day one of the war, Trump is like, okay, the Iranians, we're just going to hit them because I'm going to be the guy that gets the Greater Israel Project and whatever. The October 7th thing, Trump turned a blind eye to that. Biden turned a blind eye to that. Why? Because they're all in on it. There's, like I said, there's no difference between Obama and Trump. Not really. None of them. They all work for the same people. They all work for the same banksters. They all work for the Zionist faction, right? And whether it's the evangelical Goy Zionist faction or the Jewish Zionist faction, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same entity. These are death cults. Supremacist death cults. That's what they are. So October 7th, they've used that to pretty much genocide the crap out of the people in Gaza, displacing almost 2 million people, killing about, by the Israelis' admissions, 70,000, probably more than that. I mean, how many people are still stuck under the rubble? That's their tombs, right? Day one, Trump goes in because his thing was that the Iranians weren't going to negotiate. Meanwhile, they were literally in peace talks when, once again, 2 times in a row, that they were struck. Because strike 2 was basically, last June or whatever, the 12-day war, right? And the Iranians were in peace talks with the Americans at that time too, when they got struck, right? So this time, Trump's saying, well, they're saying they're going to get a nuclear weapon, they're going to do this. Meanwhile, you have all these people that were at the meeting saying, no, the Iranians were, progress was being made. They wanted some concessions for sure. But obviously, no, if you want us, the Iranians made it clear, we're not, the Ayatollah said we can't go after a nuke, we're not going after a nuke. Do I believe them? No. I've said for years, Iran is not going to enrich uranium to make a nuke. They're going to buy it from North Korea, Russia, or China. But that would be against international law. They're going to buy it from North Korea, Russia, or China. Look, Iranian scientists have been working on the nuclear program with the North Koreans for decades. This is well known. Everybody knows it. The North Koreans and the Iranians probably did more weapons development together than North Korea and China. You know what I mean? And considering almost everything that the North Koreans have is older Chinese equipment, right? But the North Koreans are coming up with new stuff. They've got submarine launched missiles. So I wouldn't be surprised if the North Koreans didn't give the Iranians some submarine launched SLBMs, right? Again, we're still missing two Iranian Kylo subs. My hunch is they could be off the coast of the States, because we're going to talk about this whole false flag thing, that either it doesn't matter, you're getting a false flag no matter what happens, because it's 100%, and I'll tell you why. Because whether the CIA does it to rally around the flag in the States, think of like another 9/11 type thing. What they're probably going to do is just to counter the Iranians, because the Americans bombed the girls' school. They'll probably kill a girls' school, attack a girls' school in the States, just so everybody oh wow, we got to get even now, right? I don't know if it's going to work, because I think people say, well, no, these people are dead because of Trump's war. Now, if the American CIA doesn't do it, then the Israeli Mossad most likely will do it. Why? Because the Mossad, well, they're instrumental in 9/11. I mean, it's just pretty much openly admitted by them. They knew it was coming. How did they know it was coming? Because it probably, if they didn't set it up themselves, they knew it was coming and they let it happen. The same way everybody for 6 months in advance, the Israelis were warned about October 7th. You know what I mean? The same day, that same week, the Egyptians were telling them, the Jordanians were telling them, you're about to be attacked. So it was probably an inside job to begin with. Again, the Mossad, you research them, these guys are dirty. And yet we get gaslit every time, right? So that said, the Iranians have probably said, well, they're going to do this to get a rally around the flag, to get the Americans to come and attack us, in full force anyway. Let's help them out. So let's go and, again, what's that big base? Is it Pensacola? The big naval base in California? And Norfolk. And then what's the one, what's the big naval base there in Florida? But anyway, if they can hit one of those three bases, you've got a whole bunch of naval ships there. So let's say they go in the harbor, even if they only have 18 torpedoes in their Kylo subs, but maybe they have, say, 12 torpedoes and 6 cruise missiles. Well, they can use the cruise missiles to hit, say, radar stations or whatever, or something inland. Maybe maybe they can hit the Pentagon. I don't know. Maybe they'll hit DC. I don't know. Whatever they're going to do, right? Maybe they have a mini nuke, a nuclear capable SLBM in the sub. Or they just have 18 torpedoes and they get maybe 2 aircraft carriers sitting at dock and 2 submarines and a bunch of warships, whatever, and just do 2 Pearl Harbors, one on each coast, right? The drones, yes, they probably have sleeper cells that are going to do drone attacks and stuff like that. But right now, it's just the people that are going around attacking synagogues, right? There's been 4 attacks now. There's been up here, people have been shooting at the Jews all over the place here. Again, there's going to be no way to stop it. It's the 110th expellation of the Jews. Everybody's mad at them because of what they've done. Is it all of them? No. The people that they're attacking at the synagogues probably, have nothing to do with it, obviously. But it doesn't mean they're not sympathizers. Probably 80% of Jewish people are on board, whether they're secular or non-secular, of wiping Iran off the map. It's their blood libel thing. That's why if they want to do that, go back to the fucking Middle East and do that, right? So anyway, day 1, strike 3, Trump once again attacks the Iranians while they're negotiating peace talks. Okay, completely. After this, there's no more peace talks with the United States. Nobody in the world would ever do peace talks with the United States. Doesn't matter if it's Iran or anybody else. It's just nobody can like the American trust is completely been, like violated. Us Canadians, we don't trust the American government at all on trade. Nobody wants to do trade with the United States because you make a deal with them, and 5 minutes later, Twitter diplomacy prevails, and now you got a new tariff or what? Like you can't do trade like that. You can only destroy trade like that. So the MAGA people are like pissed. They're like, no, you were supposed to, use tariffs to get business to come back, not just blanketly tariff everything. Because McKinley did it in the 1800s. Yeah, we're going to compare a 2026 economy to the 1800s. Yeah, because that's going to fucking work. Like backdrop of the time, people. Come on, like fucking get with the now. Like you can't even compare. It's like there's no comparison. Oh, but it worked back then. Yeah, and the Model A Ford worked great, on the roads back then too. You know what I mean? Maybe a little bit before the Model A, but you get what I'm getting at. Times change, right? Times change. Uh, so anyway, day one, Trump is expecting that Iran is going to do the same thing again. They'll hit them. They'll do this. They'll do that, and Trump will be the tough guy. He'll get the Maduro raid 2.0. The Iranians will just fold, and they'll give a measured response maybe 2 weeks later or a month later, whatever it is. They'll give us all the warning in the world. We'll see it coming. We'll shoot down everything. They'll save face. We'll save face. We'll call it a day, and then we can hit them again and weaken their economy a little bit more the next time, right? No, 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 no. Once that first strike went, again, going back to 2010, the Iranians heard General Wesley Clark, and they said, "What? They're gonna fucking kill us? Why?" And the Ayatollah's like, "I don't care. Let's fucking gear up," So they started rocket programs. They had all these old rockets, some old they had like 30 F-14 Tomcats that were sitting there dilapidated because they can't get parts because of all the sanctions. They have about 30 F-4 Phantoms that I guess they get the parts from Turkey. I don't know where they're getting the parts for, but there's so many F-4 Phantoms they could have years of F-4 Phantom parts. There's 5,000 of those things made, right? World, so yeah. They had about 30 MiG-29s. I don't know how many F-5 variants they have. Probably about 30 of those, whatever. 24 Su-24s, 2 of which got shot down the other night. I don't know if they have any Frogfoots. They have a Apache, not Apache, but a Cobra attack helicopter variants, kind of like domestic versions of their own. They've made them kind of stealthy-ish. they squared them off, we'll just say that. So they have those. They have, some Hype 17s and stuff like that. They have a few electronic warfare aircraft, stuff like that. An IL-76 or IL-78. I don't think they have any IL-96s there. But so they got capabilities, but it's old U.S. capabilities. They have reverse engineered Harpoon missiles, AIM-54 Phoenix missiles, reverse engineered and modified. The Iranian ones got updated warheads in them. And have a longer range than the original F-14 Tomcat missiles. The Phoenix missiles fired out to about 100 miles. The Iranian ones are about 140 miles because they just made them a little bit. They added fuel to them, made them longer, so they put more fuel into them. They have a few other aircraft, helicopters, whatever. Then they have a couple of Navy ships, most of them large ships, a lot of corvettes, probably about a dozen corvettes. Maybe, I think they had 3 to 6 frigates, 3 Kylo subs, 4 of their new medium size, slightly smaller than the Kylo, homemade subs, and then they had about 23 to 50 midget subs, right? And then about 250 to 500 of these little speedboats, and maybe 1,000 boats, like mine laying boats and whatever, all in, right? So they started to develop a strategy to basically control the Strait of Hormuz. So they've built about 6,000 naval mines, 5 to 6,000. So they could have 50,000. We don't know. They have about 3 or 4 different variants that they make themselves. So they have like the World War II contact mine, looks like a ball with spikes on it. They've got another one. It's the same thing, but it's got an actual, like it has a passive sonar on it, so it can actually be triggered by sound. And then they have like a state of the art one, a Type 3. And these things, like you can launch these off the back of a speedboat. Like they're only 260 pounds, and then the big one is about maybe 800 pounds or something like that. Again, the Strait of Hormuz is 35 miles wide at the choke point, but the shipping lane is only about 2 miles wide. So they only have to drop maybe about 6 to 10 mines on each side of the channel. Like, you know what I mean? Like they and once an area is mined, it's pretty much considered mined for life because it would take weeks to clear all those mines, but it only takes minutes to drop them off. Every 45 minutes you can be dropping off a new mine. And then you got floating mines, that just float with the current and whack into things, right? These mines can be delivered by little tiny boats. They don't need the big Navy to do that. I don't know if they have any Navy warships left. I think they figured out that, like they probably knew they weren't going to be able to take on U.S. power with their corvettes. They don't have enough of them, and they wouldn't be quite advanced enough. But maybe they do have some out there, and we just don't know where they are. Because look, the Americans sunk one off the coast of India, right? Basically in the Indian Ocean, coming back from a training mission from Sri Lanka, right? But anyway, we don't know how many ships they have left. So yes, about 50 naval ships have been destroyed by the Americans. But what were they? How many were minesweepers? We know that they had like converted carriers, like cargo ships, drone carrier ships. But they could have all kinds of like, ghost ships. That's probably what they did. It's like a warship is easy to spot, but a freighter, under some sort of international name, just in a commercial shipping lane going by, a naval flotilla, all of a sudden you get a barrage of 100, like from like 20 miles out, you get like a barrage of 100 anti-shipping missiles, that are there in like under 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna have a lot of time to respond to that. And I think that's the strategy they're going to use. Or they're taking the long way around with a smaller, let's say they have 4 corvettes left and they've got to go up against 28 ships, right? Well, they've got to keep these corvettes hidden long enough so that they could do a surprise attack, even if they lose all 4 corvettes in the attack. But if they can sink 28, a carrier group, which is about 27, 28 ships, that would be like a humiliating defeat for the United States, right? So day one, the shock and awe comes in. Israel strikes. America strikes first. Israel's pretty much, the same day strike. So you might as well say, okay, they struck 2 hours after. It's the same strike, right? Shock and awe. That's it. They're going to fold by the next day or 2 days after, whatever. Well, Iran doesn't wait to get the next round in for them to get the next round. 45 minutes after they're struck, they're already hitting several countries. They're not just going to hit Israel like they did in the 12-day war. That was a limited response. The Iranians have shown that they do limited responses because they don't want to escalate. They didn't want war. The Americans and the Israelis have given the Iranians every excuse to strike first. Like they put all those F-22s out there, and all over the mainstream news saying, if we're lucky, I see Marvin out there. maybe if we're lucky, they'll like strike them. Then we'll, like what they wanted was the United States was trying to provoke Iran to shoot first, but the Iranians aren't stupid because they know that's exactly what America wants. Because then everybody would be saying, well, they attacked us first. But now, no. They're like, no, we're going to stay the moral high ground because they know how divided the United States is. And they know that the MAGA people basically voted for no more war. So they know, like, they've got the best upper hand. The number one strategy was to let the United States and Israel hit first. Because the longer they took to do it, the more time they had to prepare. And since 2010, they've been advancing and advancing and advancing. To the point where they stole like a stealth drone from the United States. They shot down one of the most advanced, or the most advanced, the Q4 Global Hawk, the most advanced drone in the world. They shot that down. So they have capabilities, right? They have capabilities. So the Iranians, strangely enough, refused help from the Chinese and the Russians directly. So indirectly, yes, Chinese dropped them off some radars and some missile stuff or whatever. It's not working very well, but again, you can't just drop the stuff off and expect it to work. It takes years to train up an air. It takes about 4 or 5 years to train up a SAM site crew, right? Like an air defense crew. Like that takes a long time to train those guys up. Doesn't matter. Pick a nation, any nation, right? But they had it. So the shock and awe comes out. Day 1, day 2, day 3, the Americans are doing pretty good. No losses that are really big in the air or whatever, but they're probably starting to lose the drones. But effective immediately overnight, 15 countries are hit and like 15 or 20 bases. Never before seen in human history that many, you haven't seen that many air bases hit since World War II, right? So suddenly the aircraft carriers that were in 250 miles or whatever from the coast with impunity suddenly had to move out 700-800 miles from the coast because it's like, holy shit, no, they can actually get us. Then, within a couple of days, you have basically people killed, 6 people killed, and about 140 people injured. Pretty much the first night. That was pretty much the first night. Now, we know what the numbers are higher than that. It's just the Americans are not going to tell us because it's a disaster for the Trump administration. They can't tell you it's nothing, but they can't give you significant numbers. So the Iranian claims right away are just, grandiose and everything like that. Probably not, there's probably not 13,000 people dead, but there might be 5,000 people dead. We don't know. And there could be 13,000 people injured. I don't know. It goes on, and suddenly, bang, you got 3 F-15s knocked out. Okay. From a Kuwaiti pilot. Again, if he gets 2 more kills, he's an ace. You'll be the first ace of the war. Even if he has to shoot down his own side, get the ace. So I don't know what happened to that pilot. He got reprimanded or whatever, but losing 3 F-15s, if we are to believe the story, what fighter pilots, American fighter pilot veterans are saying is that the odds of this guy accidentally shooting down 3 F-15s, mistaking them for MiG-29s, is slim to none. Number one, the MiG-29s wouldn't have the range to go there and back and fight. And they wouldn't quite have that range, right? They're a short-range aircraft. They're meant to, protect, the base. The Russians didn't design the MiG-29 to be a multi-rolled aircraft. It later did become that. They designed it as a short-range day interceptor, protect the bases. If you want to go out and hit something, you'd send the Su-27, right? That's the way the Russian strategy was in the 90s. MiG-31s were to shoot down SR-71s and U-2 spy planes and stuff like that, and escort bombers halfway across the Atlantic or over the Arctic or whatever. That's what those were for, and they were to do high-speed strikes nuclear strikes, one pass haul ass kind of thing at Mach like 2.8 to Mach 3.2 for the MiG 31 and MiG 25s. And the Su-27s were going to be the escort to the bombers, dogfight, blah, 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 blah. Su-34s, ground attack. Su-25, ground attack. Su-24s, anti-shipping and ground attack. And then, of course, now it's like the Su-24 does everything. The MiG-35 is the ultimate variation of the MiG-29. It does everything. It can fly off the aircraft carrier. It replaces the Su-33, blah, 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 and it goes on and goes on and goes on, right? But the MiG-29, that is to, you send them up, defend the airbase, fly back home, fuel up, reload, go back up, shoot down the next batch of bombers coming in or whatever. That's what the MiG-29 was supposed to do. So profile-wise, at a distance, yes, you probably could, in the haziness of the Middle East, in the midday sun, you could probably mistake, at a distance, you could probably mistake a MiG-29 for an F-15, an F-15 for a MiG-29. Maybe the pilots were just so excited. Oh, wait, I get to, wasn't thinking, it's like, I get to go shoot down, 3 Iranian pilots, I mean, the guy was already out there hunting Iranian drones, right? But the thing is that once he shot the first guy down, what that means is he just fired without getting approval, because like usually the protocol is you call the base, say, look, I got 3 contacts. Am I clear to fire? And this is pretty much all across like every Air Force in the world pretty much does this, right? Well, at least all the professional ones. Anything attached to, anybody flying an F-15 or an F-18 is going to be doing those protocols, right? And that wasn't followed. So what's most likely he was probably a sympathizer. Figured that, okay, well, I'll shoot down the aircraft and say it was an accident. That's probably what happened. Or the Iranians shot them down. There was no other pilot. And we can't tell you that F-15s got shot down because that's the most like F-15s falling free fall in leaf pattern is a very demoralizing thing for the United States to see, considering the legacy of the F-15, like the most undefeatable fighter jet ever, in combat, with the most aerial kills, jet kills, that kind of, or maybe not the most jet kills, that'd be like F-86 Sabre or something like that, but of modern, Gen 4, Gen 5 aircraft, right? And then you get reports of another one getting shot down over Iraq, right? And then you get another report of another one shot down over Iran. And the one over Iraq, almost, you could say for sure that one got shot down. So you have 4 F-15s down, okay? And then you've got 11 RQ-9 Reaper drones shot down. $30 million a pop, $330 million worth of drones. That was the last count. And a Q-4 Hawk, I think, again got shot down, which is about another, that's $100 million aircraft. You know what I mean? It's expensive, okay? And that's down. Then you get a Casey, I don't know if these were Israeli ones, because it was that Lod Air Force Base in Israel. So they probably were the Israeli ones. But it's still, like the Israelis don't have a lot of air tankers, right? So you got a KC-146 and a KC-135 destroyed. So that's 2 air tankers of like maybe 400 air tankers worldwide. And not everybody's going to be sharing, like the Russians and the Chinese are not going to be sharing their air tankers. Now, will Canada just give its air tankers to the war effort? I don't know. I don't think so. Carney sounds pretty adamant that he's not going to get involved with this because he knows the Canadian people do not want this war, right? It's not like 9/11. But mind you, Chrétien did the same thing. He was like, well, we don't want to just jump in on the war in Afghanistan and right away after 9/11. Let's see who did it first, blah, blah, wait for the evidence. And eventually Chrétien caved, and then, he got into the Afghanistan war, and then Harper kept everybody there. Whatever. But anyway, I digress. So then you've got reports of just as the war started, the USS Gerald R. Ford, like the aircraft carrier, the first of the mega aircraft carriers, flagship, has toilet problems, right? But yet it gets going to sea and whatever. Now, by this point, we know for sure that the Iranians had fired on the aircraft carrier group, whether it was the Abraham Lincoln or the Gerald Ford, I can't remember which one. And that all 4 rockets missed. They didn't even have to shoot them down. Okay, I don't think that was the point of the rockets. The point of the rockets was, we know where you are. That's the message that was being said. That we know where you are at all times. Okay, so even though the Americans say, yeah, we didn't have to shoot them down, whatever, they moved the ships out. They made the ships move. That tells you aircraft carrier dominance is ending, right? Now, that said, the last time an aircraft carrier was sunk on the Americans was the Battle of the Coral Sea, I believe. It was the USS York or the Annapolis. I can't remember which one. Anyway, there was an aircraft carrier sunk. And there was a few of them damaged, again, from kamikazes. The Enterprise, like that one took a shit ton of shit kicking and, it didn't sink. But yeah, that was the last time an aircraft carrier was sunk, was in World War II, right? And this is the first time, I think, an aircraft carrier, U.S. aircraft carrier, was fired upon since probably Vietnam, at least. Don't quote me on that, right? So this is a game changer. This is a game changer. The fact that you made a U.S., basically carrier group have to maneuver out of the way and retreat to safety, that is a big thing, because now the operations are more expensive. Why? Because basically now it's going to take 3 to 4 refuelings for an aircraft to get over, your floating runway is no longer convenient. It's again, an F-18 only has a 600-mile internal range. A Super Hornet maybe 800 to 1,000, right? The F-35 maybe 800 to 1,000, right? And if you're at full fuel load, you're not at full weapons load, right? So there's always that. So this is really not an aircraft carrier war, it's a tanker war. So down 2 tankers already, and then you get the accident, right? That was, 2 nights ago. The accident takes out a KC-135 for sure, 6 people killed. Massive loss, because you can't rebuild those things. It takes 2 years to build the aircraft. You know what I mean? Like if you it'll take you 10 years to set up the jigging. You know what I mean? They're basically irreplaceable. And 64 of the 100 to 109 aircraft carriers that the Americans have are in this conflict, which means that these are priority target number 1 for the Iranians, next to the radar stations, which the Iranians have now wiped out at least 10 radar stations across, including 3 THAAD systems out of the 10 remaining on the planet, and more being brought into the theater. You're going to lose all your THAAD systems there, right? So Patriot systems, I believe 1 or 2 was destroyed. The Israelis have lost all kinds of radar systems. Again, so that takes out the early warning radar to the point where I think that the Iranians calculated that the early warning radar was out enough that they could get 2 Su-24s flying 80 feet above the ground at 700 miles an hour. Crazy. And they got 2 minutes within a U.S. base. Had those they were shot down by a Qatari QA F-15, and those things are like, talk about overmatch. Like, again, bringing like fighter pilots, like that thing, like the radar and that thing is state of the art. Like, it's basically, you could read your mind, tell what you had for last week's breakfast, can see the future, knows what you got in your bank account. Like it's as good as an airplane fighter jet's going to get. You know what I mean. It's as good as it's going to get. So not much of a match for that F-15 pilot, which I think these are the first F-15 kills of the war. Even though 4 to 6 have been F-15s have been lost. So far, the F-15 is the airplane that has lost the most, next to, I guess, the Su-22. And then an F-35 got the first kill of the war with a kill of a Yak-130, which is basically a Russian advanced trainer. So why that thing was flying around, I don't know. Maybe they're, Iranians were using it desperately as a fighter, but it would not be equipped to, it's a trainer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the first aerial kill. There's reports of like MiG-29s and F-14s and stuff like that being hit. We'll talk about the ground targets in Iran in a second. There was reports of an F-4 Phantom being shot down, but not confirmed. Then there was the the submarine kill. I guess it was either a Seawolf or a Virginia class, most likely a Virginia class. There's only 3 Seawolves, right? But I wouldn't doubt if they're in the area because, yeah, like the F-22 pilots are like, "Can I please finally get to kill something?" Yeah. Then the Iranians countered and took out a helicopter base. Don't know how many helicopters were destroyed in that, but apparently probably a lot. Again, it's hard to know what the numbers are because they won't tell you unless they have to, right? But that base was hit really hard. So people probably died on that base. It's just, again, you're not going to hear about it. Like this idea that people just get, at best get injured. No, there's probably hundreds to thousands dead. Easily. Because you can't be around this equipment when those rockets come in. You're dead. You'll be vaporized on the street. Look, these cluster bombs, the Iranians started using cluster bombs, okay? And these cluster bombs are like the equivalent of a 120 millimeter mortar. There's one where you see like the guy's like about a block and a half away from the mortar. The thing hits, goes down, and you just see the guy fall. Like he's dead. Like he looks fine, but he's dead. Because it's probably the blast pressure that killed him. Or some little shrapnel or whatever. If he's not dead, he's fucked up. You know what I mean? These, like a 1-ton warhead goes off in an air hangar. Anybody in the air hangar is dead. And to tell me that these air hangars have nobody in them, yeah. How many airplanes right now are probably down due to maintenance? Again, you're not going to fly for 2 weeks straight without, what I mean? Like the F-35s, for every 1 hour flown, need like about 30 hours of routine maintenance. You're already starting to see, like Israeli pilots, for example, because they're flying 2 to 3 sorties a day, they're so fatigued that they're starting to take, I forget the name of the drug that they take to fight the fatigue. So you're going to see all kinds of fuck ups there. And I'm sure if they're taking the uppers, so are the American pilots. They're going to crash, literally crash. They're going to crash and crash, right? They're going to crash out, and then they're going to in the cockpit, and then they're going to crash the airplane, or they're going to make a really fucked up mistake. You're going to see it. You're going to see it. Like flying 10 hours a day is like, go flying for the first time in your life. After, for an hour, you're going to sleep. As soon as you get on the ground, you're going to be fucking wiped out because you're not used to all the G-force. And that's in like a Cessna 150, let alone a high-performance jet that really pulls on you with the G-forces, right? The torpedo killed about 80 sailors out of 130. But apparently that frigate was unarmed. It was coming back from a training mission unarmed. So I don't know if you would call that a fair fight. But they probably had no idea that they got torpedoed by the Mark 48. So there was that. But then rocket barrage after rocket barrage, they're still going. Donald Trump is now kind of nervous because he's like looking at this thing. This is escalating. I got to find a way out. So he starts asking the Iranians, hey, okay, maybe you should come to the table now before you get hurt. Kind of like, if you come to the table now, we can call this off. And the Iranians like, no, you killed our Ayatollah. The other Ayatollah is wounded, but he's up and about. You killed him. We're not letting that go. And you want to call a truce just so you can rearm again and attack us again in a year, 2 years? No. The Iranians, we've got enough. We're ready to fight you past the midterms, right? Which Trump probably cares more about the midterms than anything. He doesn't care how many U.S. soldiers get killed. They always say they do, but trust me, they don't. That's bullshit. Not one of these people, GOP people, care about fucking soldiers at all. There's no Democrats that care about soldiers. They just, like half of these guys that were soldiers, these are just fucking psychotics that are fighting the last war, like Hegseth and stuff like he wants to go back and kill brown people again. You know what I mean? In the Middle East, that's what it is. Let's not sugarcoat it here, right? The guy's pure fucking evil. As they say, like he didn't serve his country. He might have been a soldier, but he didn't serve. There's people that sign up to serve and protect, and there's people that sign up to kill people. He's that guy. He's a Zionist neocon. He just wants to kill people. Anyway, so the Iranians like, fuck you, no, we're fighting. We'll give you the terms of your surrender. So Trump's saying you got to surrender, and there's still people think that the Americans are winning here, but it's like no, they're not. They're dropping more bombs, but they're having little to no effect. The Iranians closed the Strait of Hormuz effectively, except for like every ship that has tried to run the gauntlet to get around, even in the dead of night, every one of them has been sunk. So you have 19 retarded captains that fucked around and found out when the Iranians said you shall not pass. They pulled the ultimate Gandalf on you. You shall not pass. You're not getting past that. So Trump, well, we're gonna send in destroyers to escort the things. That'll scare them. And the Iranians like, please do. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna send in troops. That'll scare the Iranians. And they're like, no, we're waiting for you. Come ahead. They are like the guys. They've had 25 years. Where they saw it coming, but they really had, we'll say, 16 years of like real hard planning on this. The same way like the Taiwanese have been planning for 60 years to defend against the Chinese, right? The Chinese are watching this very close because they're going to say, well, we're going to learn what not to do. Like China's already saying, okay, well, air invasion of Taiwan is pointless. Because that's not going to work. We're just going to lose pilots for nothing. You cannot take the ground with air power. You can destroy shit. So what have the Americans been hitting? And what have the Israelis been hitting? Well, we know they've hit schoolyards. They're using old data, right? And people believe that. They're not using old data. They're just hitting whatever they want. There's no plan here. There's no real plan here. Yes, they'll say this is the plan, but then 5 minutes later it changes. This is not well thought out because they didn't think it was going to go this far. Like they thought, okay, well, the Iranians at best will run out of rockets in 3 or 4 days. But we've already known that the rockets, the old stuff is about 130,000 rockets, the Russian stuff, the Chinese stuff, the old domestic stuff. But we also know that they are major drone, as this war is going on, they're still manufacturing drones for the Russians. You know what I mean? So they made a shit ton for themselves, right? They probably have more drones than they do fucking rockets. So they're ready. And the heavy rockets, the ones that are doing the most damage, like these cluster rockets and these hypersonic rockets, they're still building 100 of those a week. So even if they get down to that where the most they can do is build 100 a week, they could fight for years like this. Right? And we know the Iraqis and the Afghanis, again, like after Desert Storm, there was no way for Iraq to really fight back against the United States, right? It's not like when you hear like, we're not looking for a fair fight, blah, blah, blah. We're going to crush you. We're going to do this. We're going to do all these things. What they weren't expecting was that the low-tech rocket, Katyusha Scud Launcher 2.0 was the fucking ticket, because it's like they're uncounterable. Hypersonic rockets are almost like the best missile defense system in the world. You say, yeah, but they're using the older missiles. Not necessarily. Yes, the stockpiles that they brought in were the older ones, but the missiles sitting there current were the up to date. So that means the best missiles interceptors in the world have about a 1 in 3 chance of actually. You have to fire about 2 to 3 of them to shoot down a missile. That's like a 30% chance, 33.3333% chance of shooting down a missile, right? To, either 50% or 33.33, whatever. That's the average. So the missile interception rate is just absolutely abhorrent. It's like, and like I said, the early missile barrages were to overwhelm the Iron Dome, the THAAD system, the David Sling, the Arrow system. There's another system in there, the Patriot, of course, and there's a couple other air defense units, but those are the only ones that could really intercept anything. The fighter jets can shoot down drones, and there's lots of, like Kuwaiti pilots have been knocking down these little Shahed drones, with their F-18s and whatever F-15s, been flying around just looking for them. Yeah, that works pretty good, but you can't be everywhere. Like you get this one or you get that one. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be fast enough to get the second one. It'll be at its target. It'll be hit its target long before you can intercept them all. Why? Because there's just so many of them. They're like freaking flies. You're chasing flies. And then they're bringing out different drones. They're bringing out the electric ones, which you can't hear them coming in, and they're a lower heat signature. They're harder to detect. They fly low. They're low and slow, but they're hard to detect. They're really hard to shoot down if you don't know which way they're coming in from. So the success rate of these drones, like I say, it's like 1 in 3. So you shoot down 2, but the third one's going to get you. And they're way cheaper than what you're shooting them at. Like the average missile being fired at a Shahed drone is $500,000 to $4 million, right? So it's like, and anything you detect, because it's hard to detect the difference between a Shahed drone and some of the rockets, even though they're at different altitudes, you might be able to figure it out. But you have to launch because you don't know what it is, right? Like the air defense systems, as good as they are, they don't tell you what it is that you're detecting. There's something in the air. You go, oh, well, it was something else, and then you got to turn around and, oh, there's something here. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy to find these things, even with the most sophisticated radars and whatever. And when they get a hit, it's a big one. And there was a big hit last night at the making of this video. Rockets landed in I forget which air base it was because there's so many of them getting hit, but it landed where there was 5 KC-135s damaged. Now they say they're all going to be repairable, whatever, but what is it going to take, a week, 2 weeks? So far that's possibly 7 tankers out of the 64, and then whatever Israel has in the region down, right? That could be a big game changer. Now, what are the Americans hitting? Okay, let's talk about the big wins that Donald Trump is telling about. Okay, so they got the odd launcher. They've hit decoys, that's clear. The Iranians painted like helicopters on the ground, including the shadows and everything like that. And yeah, you've wasted, mass ordnance on those Tomahawks. The Americans are double tapping, triple tapping. Look, they hit the school not once, but 3 times. The idea that the targeting data is just out of date, no, you're missing the point. They don't care if it's out of date because the goal is to kill the Iranian people. like it's not to do regime change. When Donald Trump says we want, and Lindsey Graham, well, we want to make sure the Iranian women and children can live in freedom and peace. No, they want to kill these people. They can't wait to nuke them. That's why they got the KC or the EC-6 Mercuries around. They're flying all over the States. There's, I think, about 10 of them in total, and about 2 or 3 of them flying around the Middle East. These nuke sniffers, right? Because they don't know if the Iranians might have a nuke to counter with, right? We don't know yet. So anyway, yeah, so 7 tankers down from damage or destroyed. Maybe it's 8 because the one that landed, I'm sure, if it took tail damage, if the story's to be believed. Now the Iraqis said that they shot down that tanker. It was probably like the story's probably half true. Like these tankers were in a training thing, and the reason why there's normally a crew of 3 and there was 6 on the one that crashed, which suggests the airplane in the back, is that they have these over the shoulder guys. All heavy lift aircraft does this, whether it's an airliner, 747, a Hercules, C5 Galaxy, an AN-225. When they're training guys in the field, okay, there's guys that like instructors coordinating, the pilot, the co-pilot, the navigator, whatever, and like experienced guys like, okay, do this, and just to see how they do, because like it takes like just to fly a KC-135 is like 400 hours plus whatever your previous training flying time is before that. But you need 400 hours to be checked out on that thing. You know what I mean? So it takes a long time. So it probably, if it did happen as an accident, it doesn't matter. You got one airplane destroyed, and one airplane probably going to be sitting on the ground waiting for parts for the next month or whatever until it gets destroyed on the ground, right? If it wasn't involved in the 5 that already got hit on the ground, right? Which I don't think they did. I think this was a separate incident. So all that. So you're seeing the odd rocket launcher and the odd missile launcher getting hit in these U.S. strikes. You're seeing some aircraft getting hit, but what is the capability of these aircraft? Are these aircraft sitting there dilapidated for parts that were useless anyway? I saw some C-130s, some ANs, IL-76, 78s, the Solution airplanes. A bunch of other smaller airplanes. A lot of them just look like domestic, commuter airplanes. And then the trucks. Trucks under bridges, trucks here, trucks there. What's happening is everything that's a truck or a semi-truck is considered a rocket truck, right? Which some of them are. Some of them are literally sleeper trucks. So the Iranians they are using kind of like what the Ukrainians did with the attack on the Russian bomber base, where they used a domestic truck. The trailer part opens up and all these fucking drones come out, destroying half the fucking bomber fleet. You know what I mean? Well, the Iranians are using the same things too to launch. So some of these domestic trucks that, it's like, says Hummus Ahoy on the side, the top opens up and a rocket comes out and then fires and, goes back to being a domestic truck again, right? There's a lot of that going on too. It's very deceptive, asymmetrical warfare. But the majority of them are just delivery trucks getting blown up. So in other words, you're just killing civilians and having no impact on the war other than the average Iranian in Iran. Probably 80% of the Iranians are like, yeah, they don't like the regime, but they don't like being liberated by the United States. Liberated by, this is like, I tell this all, like to all the Canadians that are for the 51st. Do you understand what U.S. liberation means? It means these people are going to kill your fucking family. That's what, and then say, we liberated you. It's Team America. You ever see the movie Team America? Yeah, it was a spoof comedy, but it actually turned out to be a documentary. You know what I mean? So yeah, the hits that I'm seeing is, okay, yeah, the naval hits, yeah, you could say, okay, taking out a frigate or a corvette, yeah, you could say that is a major asset, sure, but it's not a war game changer because they're still mining the Strait of Hormuz, these speedboats, and most of these tankers are not getting taken out by naval mines or anti-shipping missiles. They're getting taken out by drone boats. Yeah, drone boats, and there's thousands of these fucking things, and they're all in tunnels. They're all in tunnels. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, oh yeah, like the Americans were hitting the tunnel entrances, right? They pulled the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote thing and painted a whole bunch of fake entrances. So you might get one real one, but then it doesn't really matter because even if you hit the tunnel entrance, it's like, yeah, it doesn't really do much. They've got bulldozers, and oh well, we're taking out the oil. What the hell's the name of the island? The 82nd Airborne is supposed to go take this island. They're going to get slaughtered. Trump's like, well, we could take out the oil, but I chose not to. Yeah, because he takes that out, and then that's it for the fucking oil in the region for like the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Like 20% of the world's oil, 5 to 20% of the world's oil supply is being taken off the market, which is creating so many shocks. Like, like, okay, Trump starts a war and gas prices are going up in Canada, Europe, Asia. You know what I mean? Food prices are going up. Everything's going up. Which, if there was ever an argument to get rid of the petrodollar, that was it. That was it, right? And people say, no, well, that's part of the 4D chess plan is to destroy the petrodollar once and for all. So then we'll be liberated and America will be America first. And no. It's not. It's not the Q stuff, guys. Q is bullshit. Most likely that was a Henry Kissinger plan to keep the MAGA people distracted, believing that these white hats were going to come and save you. Yeah. Again, do not listen to Mel K. Do not listen to X22 Report. Do not listen to Simon Parks. Like, these people are grifters. They lie. There is no white hats coming. Don't listen to them. I'm not saying they're all evil people, but what I'm saying is grifters are going to grift. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that we're completely doomed. What I'm saying is it's bad. It's really, really, really bad what's going on because of the effects that, like people don't realize what happens when you take 20% of the oil off the market. Look, it's to the point where Trump has had to basically suspend sanctions on the Russians. So Putin's like, we're in that war, but you want to buy our gas and oil? I don't understand. I'll sell it to you. It helped me with my war, but yeah, thank you very much for. You're a good enemy. You're my favorite enemy. Buy some more gas. Как переживай? You know what I mean? Like they're really yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just shows the morality. Like, we're never mind the war in Ukraine now. The Ukrainians are getting slaughtered, but Israel, they're going to get all the weapons now because fuck Ukraine, right? like no loyalty, no trust, no, like, complete, like, nobody wants to do, like, the United States is destroying itself, a self-inflicted war, a war of choice that is backfiring horribly. And we don't even know what the war dead truly is. And trust me, there are war dead. There is no doubt in my mind that there's more than fucking 12 people dead. Just look at the footage. Now, the Israelis, okay? Yes, you're going to see footage of all these Israelis partying it up in the fucking, doing raves in the fucking, in the bomb shelters. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's probably like, okay, propaganda mostly. There is a lot of Israelis because, again, these people are, as a group, they're kind of insane. Yeah, they do these celebrations and sing and dance whenever there's whatever. But, the Muslims do Durka Durka Allahu Akbar, right? The Israelis have raves, right? But that said, the amount of civilians that have been wounded and killed in Israel, again, they're never going to tell you the number, but it's again, I don't hate every Israeli. I don't hate every Jew. But it's like, I don't like the machinations that they've done, right? I don't like what they're their own worst enemy. You can't help them. They can't help themselves. They're incapable, right? As a group. The odd one can self-reflect, but most of them can't because they think of themselves as the victims all the time. You've got this Israeli girl out there going, why are they always attacking us? Because you fucking started a war. They're like, Iranian aggression, no, it's retaliation. Yeah, but we only hit them once and they won't stop hitting us back because you hit them. They're not going to let it go. It's like punching a hornet's nest, and then it's like 20 hornets come in, but I only punched them once. That's not the point. You attacked them. You killed their Ayatollah. They're going to get even. And that said, the whereabouts of Bibi missing for 4 days. Is he alive? Is he not alive? He's probably alive, but I can't confirm he's alive. It's just, you have to understand, like, whenever you see statements coming out from any leader, even the new Ayatollah, like, is he alive? Is he not? Like, we know his family, his wife and daughter, I think, have been killed in U.S. airstrikes. So this guy, yeah, I think this Ayatollah might be a little bit more lenient with the nuclear question, right? If Iran wasn't going to get nukes before, they are definitely going to get it now. And if there is a ceasefire, that's the first thing they're going to do. They'll be like, China, name your price. You know what I mean? We want the good stuff. Name your price. The Chinese will sell it to them. The Russians will sell it to them. They will. But I've always said the Iranians don't need nukes to win the war. Their rockets are doing just fine. It just will be a little bit slower. So when you look at the targets, yes, the Americans are hitting energy. They're hitting desalination plants, the stuff that makes people suffer. Because that worked in Iraq, right? Killed 1.5 million Iraqis. Didn't really stop the war. It didn't make the bombing the Iranians does not make the Iranian people love the Americans more. They hate you forever now. Can you blame them? You know what I mean? You're killing them on behalf of Israel. That's it. It's the Greater Israel Project, Zionism, end times prophecy stuff is predominantly what this war is about. Not my words, Trump's words, Hegseth's words, Netanyahu's words. Again, you just listen to them. You know what I mean? Like I told you back in the second year with Trump when he started moving all the stuff to Jerusalem, when Mike Pompeo said the quiet parts out loud. You know what I mean? Listen to Lindsey Graham. These people are fucking insane. Now, the blowback. Yes, you are getting attacks on synagogues. If you're a Jewish person, you can listen to this. You can hate me as much as you want, but you better have a suitcase under your bed. You know his story on that. Look, the world right now hates Jewish people over predominantly. You know what I mean? Bringing in more hate speech laws is not going to save them. The attacks are already happening. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying it's here. It's the 110th explanation of the Jews. We're in the digital age. Changing your name is not going to be good enough. You won't be able to just be a diaspora somewhere else. People are going to find you. Why? Because people are going to come looking. Why? Because you did this. You know what I mean? As a group. Is it all of them? No. But one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And again, look, every white guy on the planet under critical theory and critical race theory, Jewish machinations again, has been told, that we're the most evil people on the planet. We have no history. We've stolen everything from everybody else. And that we're guilty all the time at birth. And we hate you, and we hate you, and we hate you, and all the minorities hate us. And everything. Okay, fine. Right? We've been demonized, right? We've been demonized. But that will be nothing, even with all that propaganda used, the anti-white propaganda used, all that will be nothing in comparison to what the Israelis and the Jews have done to themselves. Nothing. Nothing in comparison. The entire Muslim world is about to kill you. And you know what? White Christians are not going to come to your aid. The evangelicals will. There's about 70 million of those, and yes, most of them will jump on a plane tomorrow morning and drop them right in the middle of downtown Tehran. They'll die gladly for Israel. Maybe that's the best thing. Get rid of the radicals that way. But the thing is that the rest of the world, they're not willing to die for Israel. They're not willing to die for Israel. They're not even willing to defend Israel. Why? Because Israel is a genocidal regime. Look, we killed Milosevic with the death penalty for crimes against humanity from the Balkans War, right? Who did nowhere near the fucking death and destruction that you see Israel doing. Like, he was bad. Don't get me wrong. He was a bad guy. But, again, he was fighting, Muslim aggression, whatever. Look, the Israelis are so insane that the Israeli regime is already talking about, now some of these guys are already dead. I think they got killed in the rocket attacks. Because there are like a lot of high ups in Iran that got killed. But what they're not telling you is there's a lot of high up Israeli agents and, military guys getting killed as well. Like the Iranians seem to have good intelligence of tracking down people. Not as good as, maybe the Israelis and the Americans have. But they're fine. Like they probably did find Netanyahu. They say his brother might have been killed. But look, the war's not even really started yet. And they're already talking about, Israel's already talking about how they're going to have to take out Turkey next. You know what I mean? And Egypt. It's like Egypt sitting there for fucking the last pass since 2011 after that Arab Spring. They fired Morsi saying, like, look, we're just going to stay out of all this bullshit. We're not going to get involved in Libya. We're not going to get involved in Israel. We're not going to get involved in fucking Syria. We're just going to, just fucking leave us alone. We're just going to run the Suez Canal and fuck off, right? And it's like, no, we have to kill them. The Israelis, we have to kill these people because they're going to be a problem. They're going to attack us in the future, right? That was the whole thing, preemptive attack, right? Unfucking believable, but yet here we are. Anyway, with that going on, the one big thing that Trump did not, and again, people are saying, again, is Trump this stupid? Possibly. I don't think he is. I think a lot of the stuff we hear that the apologists say that, look, no, it's not Trump's fault. It's the people he's surrounded by. They're giving him bad advice. This man spends more time on social media than a teenage girl. You know what I mean? The second somebody in the world says something about his bad tariffs, policies, or whatever, he's on Twitter. That's it, another 10% again. He knows, right? This idea that he had bad targeting information, he doesn't care. He's in on it. They want to kill Iranians. You know what I mean? What do you think the Greater Israel Project is? It's not about just taking out rocket programs. It's about killing everybody and genociding everybody in the... What do you think the bombing of Gaza was all about? It's to kill, like the Israelis were trying to, like if they would have had B-52s at their disposal, and if Trump would have been in at the time, in October 7th, the Israelis would have been basically doing the Ho Chi Minh Trail on, with like 50 B-52s just fucking carpet bombing, right? Because they don't want to get rid of Hamas. They want to kill everybody in the region. Why? Because it's easier. What do you think Jared Kushner, like, why the fuck is Jared Kushner in on peace talks? This guy's not elected. Because he wants to make money off of Gaz Largo. Why? Because he wants his Israeli Zionist buddies to have nice places to live after they fucking extinguish the Palestinians. What do you think dropping the white phosphorus on the fucking West Bank's all about? They were next. They always knew they next. The Lebanese weren't stupid. They knew. Look, the Lebanese is where we're probably getting most of our footage from. You know what I mean? Here's Lebanon's like, oh, wow. You guys over there in the States, you got 4th of July fireworks. We got this. I mean, you see them, up on the roofs dancing. Woohoo! They got their hummus sandwiches. That's like, you got all these, hoochie Lebanese girls sitting there. Little sparklers, watching all the rockets hitting Tel Aviv and shit. Fuck, it's crazy. It's like you couldn't make this up in an apocalyptic movie, even in the 1980s. It's that crazy. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just like, it's the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy meeting the movie Catch-22 meeting the Moon over Parador movie. This has been my life since 2007. It's like you can always sit back and laugh at the chaos of it all, not because it's funny, just because what do you do? So many people stressed out right now. I'm just like, it is what it is. It is what it is. Be informed. Don't let it control your life. Yes, shit is about to get really, really bad. So here's what my recommendations are. We'll get back into a bit of the recap in a second there. But pick up a book, write a book, sit and have supper with your family, right? Because cherish these moments, because I can guarantee you 6 weeks from now, okay, we're going to be living in a different world. That world is going to be very expensive. Very expensive. Look, we just got word last night that, okay, we know that the Americans just lost 92,000 jobs. Well, we just lost 80,000 jobs up here in Canada. Yeah. Now, that said, the saving grace is that, yes, the employment rate went from 6.5, which I know it's a ballpark low number, but from the official numbers, it went 6.5 to 6.7%. So about a 0.2% spike in our unemployment, right? but we're still better off than what the Americans are doing, and we're still better off than when Carney first took office, right? We've actually gained a lot. Wealth has actually went up a bit in the country. I know, as much as you can hate Carney, hate him as much as you want, fine, I don't care. I'm not going to defend the guy. But I'll tell you what he's doing and what he's not doing. And overall, he's actually doing pretty good for the times. But the problem is we have an economy that's like a bouncing ball. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It's good, it's bad, it's gamble, right? Can we outrun the collapse of the United States? I don't think we're going to make it. If we take a couple more hits like this, we're in real trouble, right? The Americans have lost about 10 million jobs under Joe Biden, and God knows how many, at least probably a million or two jobs under Trump and the 2.0. The air travel in the States is like, they've lost, like, I forget what the percentage is, but they've had to divert air travel routes because there's no more tourism. You know what I mean? They've lost, like 30% of their tourism. They've lost pretty much most Canadians, right? And now, with everything going on, they're going to lose even more. And not only that, even if there are people who want to go flying, they can't. Why? Because the airplanes are grounded due to fucking rocket rain. You know what I mean? Like, people are trying to get, like, you had Rubio out there talking about, well, we got about, this many people to come out, it's like 1,500 or, and, people are, begging to be saved, It's like, we have basically the exit of Saigon going on. You're going to have, like, Black Hawk helicopters over all the embassies that are still getting attacked. Again, like the Middle East, look, the Israelis and the Americans are trying so desperately to get the Kurds to fucking go to war with the Iranians, and they're just like, we're not really interested in that right now. Sure, yes, the Kuwaitis and stuff like that, and the Saudis, they want to go to war with the Iranians, but what they were thinking was, well, if we just host U.S. bases, we'll just let them do the dirty work because we know we can't take them. Like, the Saudis know they can't take Iran. And look, the Houthis, where the fuck are the Houthis in all this? They're just sitting there waiting. Their silence is deafening. They're like, okay, Kim Jong-un and his daughter watching rocket displays going, I wish we could fucking fire rockets at something. The Houthis are like, we're waiting. We're waiting right now. We'll wait a little more. We know where the aircraft carrier is. We're waiting. The Houthis want to be the ones to sink the aircraft carrier. They want it. They're fucking drooling for this, right? Now, the aircraft carrier, the two aircraft carriers that really seem to be getting the love is the Gerald Ford and the Abraham Lincoln. The Abraham Lincoln must be the one that's closer because it's the one that's constantly seeming to be in target. Now, there was a report yesterday that the Iranians actually got a hit on the Abraham Lincoln. Obviously, this has been denied. It's been denied every day because every day, and you got to understand, like, the CIA is probably putting out half these videos saying that the Abraham Lincoln is, been hit, the Gerald Ford, and it's always like clearly not true. Why? Because it's the idea of cyber warfare. Like, again, it's a part of the warfare. It's just like all these suddenly overnight. Like, again, where's all this AI slop coming from? Is this what the billions and billions of dollars of the data center, just to do this AI slop? You know what I mean? Like, it keep people confused. That's what it is. But it doesn't matter because 5,000 people. An aircraft carrier, you can fit 3,000 to 8,000 people on. The average is probably 3,000 to 5,000 to keep it running on average. That's a fucking floating city. You know what I mean? Like, my town only has 260 people in it. You know what I mean? And then if you add up the cottagers for the surrounding area to the neighboring town is maybe 1,500. It's not a lot of people here. You know what I mean? Like, that aircraft carrier, the entire Pontiac region that I live in West Quebec here, one of the 18 municipalities, only has about 25,000 people in it. You got an aircraft carrier with 3,000 to 8,000 people in it. Like let that part sink in. It's like, and again, if they sink the Gerald Ford, That is not only an aircraft carrier, that is a flagship aircraft carrier. It's the largest one on the planet ever built, right? There's new ones coming along. I don't know what the next one's going to be. But you sink, the next in line, like the Abraham Lincoln and the George W. Bush are big. They're Nimitz class, I believe. So they're big. They're big, right? And if you sink one of them, it's the end of the United States. And that's not hyperbole. That's it. You guys are no longer the world police. You cannot defend the world. You are no longer the captains of the sea. The U.S. pirate navy is no more. It wasn't a pirate navy. It was, again, after World War II, when the Brits handed the torch over to the Americans, saying, we're not going to be the rulers of, again, the Brits ruled for 500 fucking years. They did pretty good. The French ruled the other half of the world, right? And then the Dutch and the Portuguese and the whatever, the Spaniards, they ruled a lot too, but not like the British and the French. The British and the French, they fucking controlled everything. Was the HMSE, the original Enterprise, or the Magnificent, I can't remember which tall ship it was. It ruled the seas for 30 years. The largest tall ship built, like with cannons and that, was the Saint Laurent, which was it wasn't an ocean-going boat. It was on the Great Lakes. It was a Canadian-built naval vessel, but it didn't serve very long. But you had some of these ships serve for 30 years, and some of those ships are still around today. These tall ships, because they preserved them, right? Which is amazing that these things could last that long. From the 1600s to 1700s. That's crazy. 1800s. That's crazy. But the thing about it is this: is that the aircraft carrier was coming out of World War II with a huge navy behind it, right? And you had all these aircraft carriers that they had. And the Enterprise being probably the most, probably most popular, the Marianas Turkey shoot and all that in World War II. And it was a projection of power that wasn't contested until now. Basically, the Russians gave us the heads up. A few years back when they're like the Admiral Kuznev, what's like the one Russian aircraft carrier, right? Like they got a couple of mini amphibious carrier, like helicopter carriers, but they're Su-33, MiG-35, they're big carrier, right? Which would be a small carrier in comparison to like the Nimitz class or whatever. But they understood that it didn't have a future, right? So the thing kind of just went into Soviet disarray, right? It was the pride of the Russian fleet during the Cold War because it was an actual game changer during the Cold War, right? And anti-shipping missiles have been around since the 1960s, 1950s in their, infancy, even maybe technically in the 1940s, like the Germans, they had a actual radio-guided anti-shipping missile, right? Okay, that's why I say like what you're seeing right with the American military is the ultimate World War II military, right? And the thing about it was that was the first one, and it had like maybe a 10% chance of actually hitting the ship, right? So the Germans were firing wire-guided air-to-air missiles. They had air-to-ground missiles. They were very short range, they only go a couple of 100 feet, but they could take out a bomber or a ship or whatever. And they experimented with it. And then in the late 40s, early 50s, the cruise missiles started becoming the thing. But they weren't really useful until you see like the Vietnam era, late 60s, early, late 60s or whatever, where you start to see like, Maverick missiles and the Tomahawk 1s and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that changed the game. The difference was when you were flying your A6 Intruder over Vietnam and you saw a Vietnamese gunboat, you could fire a Maverick at it from 10 miles out or whatever, destroy it completely undetected. And there was nothing they could shoot back at you unless they had an SA-2 or something like that to shoot back at you, whatever, right? And it was pretty much impunity. You could just destroy whatever you wanted. There was nothing to do. It was mostly anti-aircraft fire that took down like A6 Intruders and stuff like that because they flew low, right? Then you get into Desert Storm. Desert Storm, well, there's no anti-shipping missiles that Saddam has. Well, he doesn't need them. He didn't fucking need them. He wasn't too close to anything, right? Caspian Sea, that's it. But whatever. I believe the Caspian Sea. Look at the map again. Yeah, Caspian Sea. Yeah. So anyway, the thing is that the aircraft carrier is not contested. Why? You could still use the aircraft carrier, go after Iraq and whatever, building up all these Gulf states, saying, "Hey, look, if you help me against Kuwait, if you want to help me against Saddam, we'll come bail you out." Okay, they rose up against Saddam. Oh, but George Bush forgot to come to their aid, and Saddam killed everybody. But there's a story, I've told it before, I'll tell it again, of these poor Iraqis that were fighting Saddam's forces, and there was a bunch of T-55s coming up the street, and they all ran into the mosque, believing right to the last minute, from a count from 85 people in this mosque, and they're like, no, the Americans are coming, they're on their way, they truly believed they were going to be saved by A-10s or something like that. Never came. The tanks got to the edge of the mosque. They basically killed everybody inside except for one or two people. 85 people died anyway, believing that George Bush said he was going to come and save you, and they didn't, right? And that happened in Kuwait, right? Then later on, the Kuwaiti government changed after Saddam, like my dad said last night, because I shaved yesterday, right? A little side story here, you'll laugh at this. I walk around the corner and I flick the light for my nephew who's playing his video games. He looks at me. Comes out, oh, look at that, Then my sister-in-law come around the corner. She's like, ah! She nearly fell down the stairs. Like, holy, stranger in the house. Yeah, it shocked the shit out of her. Everybody's had the same reaction. My dad's like, great, you don't look like Saddam. He said this to me last night. He goes, you finally don't look like Saddam Hussein when they caught him. Everybody's been begging me to shave that beard for like forever today. But I'm like, you don't understand. Like when I'm out in the cold weather, like a muskox blowing in the wind, yeah, my beard gets all full of ice, but it's like when you wear a scarf, that's what gives you pneumonia because it's always wet, right? Where at least, the ice just builds up and you stay dry underneath. It's the best scarf you can get. It's just you look like Saddam Hussein when they caught him. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, so the aircraft carrier completely uncontested until now. And we know it's been contested because the aircraft carrier can't stay in the Gulf, Persian Gulf, or the Gulf of Oman, or the Arabian Sea, or the Persian Gulf. Whichever you want to go by, it doesn't matter. You can't stay there. You will die. You can't send Ollie Burke or Tongaroga class destroyers or super destroyers into the Strait of Hormuz to basically take out, I think, the remaining, well, it was like 130 cargo ships and freighters, minus 19 or 21 there now, depending on how many they blew up last night. Again, these fucking guys are retarded trying to get around the Strait. Like, when the Iranians say, you shall not pass, just take their word for it. They've sunk everyone that's tried or damaged it so bad, right? People have been killed. There's one guy, you can see the drone coming in. You see him on the boat. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of guys that were down in the ship when it got hit. They were in the engine room. You never saw them again. So if the explosion didn't kill them, they burnt to death or choked to death on oil fumes. Like, it's like fucking grim, you know what I mean? You've got all these people in, like that. Like, what kind of health issues are we going to see with these poor Iranian people being fucking, like just covered in oil? It's raining oil. Evil. But no, you're not going to get an Ollie Burke class unless it wants to be destroyed. This idea that you're projecting power, you can't project the power. because the Iranians can take it out. My hunch, if we are to believe that a drone did hit the Abraham Lincoln last night, the question is how many people died? If it just hit the top of the carrier, then the carrier will be coming home. Why? Because there's going to be a big hole in the carrier. So if you're lucky, nobody died, but it's probably got a big hole in it somewhere. It won't be able to stay at sea. And if it's staying at sea, it's staying at sea with battle damage, right? So maybe it got hit on the side, kind of like, I remember the USS Enterprise. There was a Mitsubishi Zero that smacked the side of it, and they left a dent in the side of it just as a reminder where the Zero hit. But it hit at a speed where it was low enough, it just bounced off and left a big fucking, dent on the side of the. Yeah, they left it there for years. They just painted over it. They said that's where the Mitsubishi Zero smoked it on the side, but it didn't destroy it. But the Mitsubishi Zero was the drone of its day. It's just a Japanese guy died every time it was successful, right? Kamikaze, the divine wind. My hunch, if there's any corvettes left from the Iranians, it would probably take them a week to 2 weeks to do this, to take a long way around, coordinate an encircling of the carrier group, because remember, the carrier group is bigger, right? But maybe they do have enough corvettes to do this. Maybe they have more Kylo submarines than we thought. But they need to encircle and then chase them into inland, or wait till they go inland again for the next mission, right? And then pounce from behind, cut off the retreat is basically. So again, I don't think they would do it, but it's a possibility they could do it. It's just taking on a U.S. carrier group is a guarantee. Like, you'll probably get some kills, but you're going to get killed yourself. That's the thing. The only ones that would probably be able to survive it would be the Kylo subs. So, long-range anti-shipping missiles, take the Hail Mary from, say, 100 miles out, 200 miles out, and see if you can evade the oncoming U.S. missiles coming back at you. Catch them on surprise when they're doing their next sortie. I don't know how they're going to do it. But I do believe that they are going to either use rockets, these cluster rockets, to take out the aircraft carriers, or just damage them. Because you don't want them to leave the region. You want to be able to sink them, right? The next is the drones, like the rockets, to basically take out the electronic warfare and radar and detection and tracking as much as possible, so that the drones can come in, finish the job on the air defense units, and then clean them up with the anti-shipping missiles. Because they clearly have carrier killers that can fire the full range. But the thing is that they could be waiting for public opinion. You know what I mean? Because the Americans, they hate Donald Trump, say 80%, even the right wingers, right? Because he's betrayed everybody. He's betrayed the economy. He's betrayed any sort of trust for negotiation. The United States is not a good faith actor in anything right now. You know what I mean? And I hate the fact that the majority of my audience is going to be American. They're not going to like to hear that. But unfortunately, that's where you sit. A lot of Americans are coming to the realization of this. And there's one lady I'm listening to, she's like, she goes, the world hates us. Fuck. Why? I don't blame them. I understand. We're threatening to go to war and annex everybody. And we are going to war with everybody. We're starting all these wars. Nobody on the planet wants war other than these fucking neocons, right? It's so sickening. It's so sickening. These people are sick. And treasonous. And crimes against humanity, it's horrible. But I do believe they are going to sink an aircraft carrier. They have the capabilities. It's just not if, but when. And the thing is I think what they're going to do is I think what the Iranians are waiting for, again, they're doing the red meat thing. Like again, the lowbrow MAGA people that are still left, they watched. Oh look, they just destroyed a fucking delivery truck. I bet you there was rockets in there. Okay, they got the odd drone out in the open. But when you look at Desert Storm, just look at the difference. Almost every, like Apache gunship helicopters, dilapidated T-55, they shot it. Okay, a T-72, a BMP-3, an SA-6, whatever. All Scud launchers, you know what I mean? Yeah. They hit all this stuff, right? Real like G.I. Joe stuff, right? Taliban fighters, in the mountains. Okay, yeah. We rocket them with the Apache gunship helicopters. We strafe them with with the A-10s, whatever. Okay, sort of like fighting resistance. Okay, so it's war. Okay, you got a pickup truck, you got a delivery truck, you got a semi truck. Like all these Iranian truck drivers that are being killed. You know what I mean? Watch out though, guys in Iran. You might end up with the Indian truck drivers. I'm just telling you, they're pretty bad. You don't want them. You can have ours, but I guarantee you don't want them either. The fuckers are crashing all over the place. So probably for every one rocket truck that they're blowing up, they're probably blowing up 100 like just domestic hummus delivery systems. You know what I mean? It's like this poor guy driving his delivery truck. I've got a good load of goat milk today. Boom. Fucking, basically dairy everywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then of course burning out the oil stuff. Now the Iranians are, they're hitting back too. Like you hit their desalination plants, they hit yours. So people are about to die of thirst. 3 minutes without air, the average person dies. 3 days without water, the average person dies. 3 weeks without food, the average person dies. Now think of all the damage that we've seen in 2 weeks. So how much of that is going to play out? So you're breathing in that fucking oil fumes. It's all over the Middle East, right? I'm not saying that the Iranian rockets are environmentally friendly here. You know what I mean? I mean the sinking tankers. Think of all the oil slick in that region. All the fish are going to be poisoned. You know what I mean? It's just a nightmare. And all of it is going to be blamed on Israel and the United States. Jews and, particularly the evangelicals, but Christians in general are going to take the slings and arrows for that one. Why? From the left. The left hates Christianity to begin with, generally speaking, right? Now you just, they can't separate evangelical Zionist from a Catholic Christian. you know what I mean? Catholic or a Christian, right? There's that. So, but the thing is that most Christians that are Christians are against this. Especially the hardcore Christians. They're like, no, we're not Zionists. You know what I mean? So I do believe you're going to see more aerial losses. But I do believe this week coming, you're probably going to see a lot of emphasis on taking out tankers. I haven't heard of any EC3s or anything like that getting taken out, or P8 Poseidons or whatever, like the electronic warfare aircraft. I haven't heard about too many of them getting shot down. But look, the Americans do not have air superiority the way people think they have air. Most of these attacks are coming in from cruise missiles and stuff like that, and standoff weapons. It's not JDAM time yet. They're not directly over the target. Maybe some of them, but most of them no. A lot of these are Predator drones that are doing the attacks. A lot of these are, the Predator drones are guiding in the munitions, because again, a lot of these are targets of opportunity. They're not well planned out. Look, that naval base headquarters that they hit, that hit the schoolgirls, right? That was it's been 10 years or something like that. Don't quote me on the time, but it's something like that they've converted that to a girls' school, right? And they hit it 3 times, probably even after they knew that they hit girls. That's how evil this is. Why? Because it's genocide. That's what they're doing. It's not regime change, it's genocide. You have to look at what it is. When Hegseth comes out and says, this is it, boys and girls, it's the Armageddon, blah, 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 he means it. Like they want to wipe the Iranian people off the map. Why? Because Iran is going to control the entirety of the Middle East. Now, that said, the Gulf states are like, well, if Israel and the United States are going to do it, we'll just sit back. But the thing is that what they're learning is that if you comply with the United States and help them, you will suffer the consequences. Because the idea of just hitting Israel when everybody, like they're launching the attacks from the UAE or Qatar or Jordan or Kuwait or wherever, or Bahrain or wherever they're going to do it, it's like, well, it's all one system, right? The Iranians aren't stupid, because they'd lose the war if they didn't do it the way they're doing it. But if you hit wherever military assets that are used against you are, it's a total war concept, but it works. So I think they're going to target tankers this week, big time. The aircraft carrier, I think they want to kill boots on the ground. Because here's the thing, if you kill the aircraft carrier first, this is my thinking, it's more likely to get a rally around the flag. Right? But you have to understand, like, the death of the aircraft carrier is the ultimate defeat. But if you send in troops, the 82nd Airborne and what's the name of this? Muse or whatever. It's like 2,200, 2,500 guys that they're sending in. And these are like the shit hits, the door kicker, shit hits, the fan type guys. These are the first guys to go in, right? And they're talking about, is it Kola Island? Whatever the island, the Iranian island with all the oil refiners are. Trump's like, yeah, we're just going to go take it, right? Those troops are going to be rocketed. Like, the Iranians will blow up those refineries to kill Americans. Because if they kill 2,200 Americans in a few nights, right? There's like, you're not going to be able to, supply these guys properly. Like, what, you're going to zip across the Strait of Hormuz with a landing craft? I don't fucking think so. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be taken out long before you get there. You're going to be meeting thousands and thousands of Iranian troops on the shores. You know what I mean? They're not going to need much. Like your A-10s and Apaches are not going to be good enough. The air defense systems will take those out. Like, you're not going to be able to just, like, it's not Desert Storm. Trump is thinking he's going to pull a Desert Storm because he's convinced the Americans are unbeatable. But you've been getting your asses kicked all week in a lot of ways. Sure, there's no winners in the war per se. I mean, the Iranians, I'm not understating the damage that they're taking, but they're not taking damage like that's going to change the war outcome. Why? Because that's all underground and hundreds of meters underground, like 1,500 meters underground, like in a mountain. Like, there's no Moab that's going to get through that. You know what I mean? Yes, the U.S. probably did get a few B-2 hits in there. Sure. But if they lose a B-2, like, the PR on it is going to be really bad. There were some B-1 Lancers that had to turn around and land back in the UK. The one was something like the weapon was, like, still armed and it was, like, stuck. They couldn't drop it. So it landed without incident, but, kind of scary, like those big heavy aircraft, they take a lot of maintenance, right? Like, if you look at the Ukrainian war, right, the only aircrafts that they can kind of keep flying are like the Su-34s, Su-25s, but it's mainly the Su-34 it's the backbone of the Russian military right now. And Su-35 is escorting now. Su-57s are kind of, they got maybe about 40 of them that they're sort of using for, more sophisticated targeting against more sophisticated targets like air defense and stuff. But the thing is that this idea that you just fly willy-nilly over an contested airspace, it's not happening. Like Iraq, Afghanistan, you could do it, right? Because they didn't have the air defense systems. The Iranians have the air defense systems, so it's really tricky to do. I'm not saying it's not being done at all, but it's not, complete. Like, there's no air. Just because Trump says you got air superiority and you've won the war already doesn't mean you're, again, he's telling people this and they believe him. But it's like, okay, yeah, but the Iranians have just fired the largest barrage of the war just after you said they were running out of rockets. And again, they haven't stopped. It's been like 14 days. They've hit several countries, not just one country. Like it wasn't just like Iraq and the United States, and it's Iran against, like all these other countries. And they're holding their own. And they're advancing their weaponry as well, and their tactics, and their targeting list. So, yeah, like whenever they sink, I think they're going to kill troops on the ground first for demoralization, because that will have you won't get a rally around the flag when troops get killed on the ground. Maybe when you sink a warship, I know it sounds weird, but there's something about it that it's just like, well, they attacked our carrier. But boots on the ground, it's like they killed our guys, but it's like, why did we send them into a slaughter fest? I mean, we're sending them into Iwo Jima 2.0. Like it's crazy, right? So I think I think the Iranians want to kill troops on the ground first. Because you can't really, like the Kuwaitis don't really seem to want to mobilize their military. And like, again, it's kind of like the Italian campaign in World War II. No offense to anybody Italian watching, but when my grandfather was fighting, what he used to say was he respected the Germans because he goes, they were professional soldiers and they were there to kill you. Like, you were there to kill them, but they were there to kill you. And there was no doubt about it. He goes, with the Italians, and I don't blame the Italians like myself, because it's like, what would you do if you were, you had like basically, Canada was a superpower at the time. One of the superpowers, basically. We had the fourth largest military in the world at the time. Basically fighting, an extremely powerful, another superpower, and you're the monkey in the middle. So when the Canadians were winning, the Italians would fight on your side. When the Germans would win, they'd turn around and shoot back at the Canadians, right? Well, that's what you get with the Middle East. It's like, okay, well, the Kuwaitis, they'll be on the U.S.'s side, but if the Iranians start overrunning them, no, we're on your side. And again, are they going to side with their brother or the foreigner? I don't know. You tell me. Because I think the Kuwaiti royals, like, you listen to them, they're scared shitless right now. They're like, they don't want an uprising in their countries, so they can't show too much support for the United States, right? But if they cut off the United States from using their airspace and stuff like that, there's the blowback of the United States. They don't want to be next on the list because Israel said so. Oh, Kuwait, you don't want to defend Israel anymore? Suddenly you're on the targeting list. You know what I mean? That's why they're there. You know what I mean? That's why they weren't on the list. The George Bush list, right? But I do believe, they're gonna, when these guys get landed into Iran, it's going to be a nightmare. They might be there a few days or whatever, and then the Iranians are going to, by that time, you're going to be able to sneak up on them. Like, the U.S. Air Force is not there in its full entirety. You could bring B-52s, you can bring whatever, but you will not be able to protect those guys on the ground. And no, they're not going to be able to take out a 1 million man army with 2,200 guys. Like, what are you going to do with these guys there? The only thing they can do is put them on the bases and wait for them to get hit by the rockets. That's it. So no matter what, these guys are going to get killed. Pretty much, just following orders, because Trump said so and Israel said so, it's going to get you killed. But once they do that, then I think they would take the aircraft carriers. When Americans are just completely, like, in total fright of losing so many soldiers, like, blood and guts Patton style, right? And that's going to happen, right? But that said, the Iranians, I do believe, like I said, their number one target has got to be tankers. Once they find out where the tankers are, they're going to hit them. Because if you take out those 64 tankers, and the United States takes all 110 tankers, right? You've greatly depreciated the fighting force of the United States to the point where the aircraft carriers will have to come in close, which means they're more likely to get sunk, right? So the aircraft carrier is becoming obsolete. Warships are becoming obsolete. The submarine is still valuable for now. Warships are going to have a different role. We'll just say that. They're not going to be completely obsolete, but you'll never be able to get in close. Surveillance warships will have to stay like 1,000 miles off of any coast at all times. I do not believe for a second that the Americans are going to win this war just because of what they're targeting. Like they're like this idea that we're going to decapitate the regime. Like for example, if you got rid of Xi Jinping, right, the regime changes, you get a new guy, no problem, right? It doesn't work like that with the Iranians. The Iranians work in a Hydra factory. You cut off the head of this general, the next one pops up. Like, so it doesn't matter if you kill the top general. Like, all their generals are basically trained about the same. They're all pretty advanced guys. They all kind of know what they're doing, and it's just who gets promoted next. That's what it is. And these guys are dedicated to the regime. There's no doubt about that, right? And look, most of the Iranians out there, even while they're being bombed, the Iranians or civilians are out there, and they're still out there in the streets protesting the United States and Israel in favor of the Iranian forces, right? While they're being bombed, like you can hear the bombs going off in the background. You hear these people still cheering. Like they're like, no, fuck you, fuck you, make me. You know what I mean? So. No, the United States, there's no way for them to win this war. You put boots on the ground, it's not going to be like Iraq or Afghanistan. You're going to lose thousands and thousands and thousands of guys within a week or two. Like, it's not... You could airdrop every bit of, like, all 90,000 armored vehicles, use all 85,000 aircraft, put in all 2,200 active service fighters, put in like the 500 bombers, you're still going to lose. It's the tactics, And the Iranian people, they might not love their government, but they're unified as a people. Trust me, they hate Americans killing and Israelis killing their people more than they hate their government. That's clear as day. Yes, you got the odd PR thing. Look, people in Canada, like Iranians, are shooting at each other in Canada over this. They're shooting at Muslims are shooting at and attacking synagogues over this, right? This is not going to go away. This is going to be a very bloody summer in the West. And no, the United States, the American people are not ready for a war on their own soil. They're not ready for that level of terror. Doesn't matter if you say, well, that's it now, we've got to go get them. It won't matter, because you're looking at another 20 to 30 years of fucking terrorist attacks. You know what I mean? Like, it won't matter how much we'll just nuke them. It won't matter. You can nuke them, it won't be enough. Why? Because they're too dispersed. Yes, the cities are big. I mean, they got several million-man cities. Populations of 1 million people. Tehran, I think, is between 10 and 18 million people right there. But people, they're running and hiding in shelters and caves and stuff too. Yes, they're going to suffer. They are suffering. You are making them suffer, which is hardening their resolve. And every U.S. loss that goes there is going to be on the shoulders of Trump and Israel, right? Again, the question isn't going to be when the Muslims push Israel into the sea. The question is going to be when global Jewry dies at the hands of its own, its hosting population. The diaspora is about to get its ass handed to it, and they don't even see it coming. Again, because Jews, they always think of themselves as victims because of World War II, blah, blah, blah. And they can never, ever, ever understand that sometimes you reap what you sow. Like their own worst enemy. Again, call me whatever you want, but am I wrong? If you've been kicked out of 109 places, it's probably because you keep doing the same stupid shit. And considering they're so convinced on this Zionism thing, they hate their hosting populations in majority. Not all of them, but again, we know what the problem is. We know what the problem is. The thing is that the Gen Z, for example, we're going to have a draft, or you're going to go to jail. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the last draft that they were able to successfully pull off was World War II. Vietnam wasn't successful. It was the end of the draft system. So even though the Trump administration has already made the draft automatic, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to show up. What, you're going to send people and drag them away like the Ukraine? You will get a civil war. The veterans themselves will probably start shooting guys that are, rounding people up. Why? It's just we're there. Like there's no peaceful way out of this. It's either you die for Israel or you're going to go to the gulag, right? But that kind of overhanded authoritarianism, right? When people like look, it's been coming for a while, right? And the only thing they call you is far right, whatever, and hate and inciting violence and stuff like that. I'm not. I'm just telling you this is what's coming. Like I'm just saying, these intelligence agencies are pure evil. Doesn't matter if you're talking about the CIA, MI5, MI6, CSIS up here in Canada, or even the RCMP. I'm not saying that they're all in on it, but they don't. The FBI, the CIA, the DHS. These people do not work for the people. They work for the establishment. That's it. They're never there to save the people, right? It only seems like once they become veterans or whatever. And again, watch the veterans for sure, law enforcement and military. They are going to start rising up. You are going to have a civil war and a military coup in the United States. Once you see your elite forces getting fucking vaporized by rockets and machine gun fire and artillery on the shores on Iranian shores, that's going to be very hard to answer for, because people, when you can just steamroll them with a bunch of A-10s and kill 10,000 people on the highway of death, sure, everybody cheers you on because your guys aren't taking losses. Once they start taking massive losses, 2 people, a person every 2 days or a person a day, probably not going to get the U.S. revolting. 20 people a day, 30 people a day, 100 people a day. Yeah, once you get to Vietnam level losses, you're going to get revolts. You get 10 times that. If you get 500,000 people, Americans killed overseas, you will have the entire of the Congress, the whole Jewish factions will be driven out of the country. There's no doubt about that. Because it just won't be tolerated anymore. Yes, you are going to see genocidal death ditches all over the West, the same way you saw in the 90s Balkans wars. The people going in them right now is most likely going to be white people. Probably mostly white liberals, because they're the ones that believe, we're fighting the far right and Nazis and everything like that. And they don't realize that, it's coming from, again, the Zionists, the globalists, the people that they're pretty much sticking up for, right? It's crazy. But it is what it is. But however, the tide will turn, and when it does, it's going to be very violent the other way. And again, nobody believes that the Iranians could stand up to the United States. They are. They might collapse next week. You never know. I'm not talking economically. They're already collapsed economically. They don't care. They have the will to fight. They've been ready for, if you think that the American people will be able to stomach losses at home. Overseas is one thing, because they can make the argument, well, they're fighting for our freedoms and liberties and, women and children democracy, even though your first order of business is the bomb a girls' school. But again, I'm glad that the left is finally noticing. The right has been telling you this, that these are, evil wars since Obama, at the end of Bush, pretty much we're telling you that, the reason why Obama got elected was he was supposed to undo everything George Bush did. He didn't. He doubled down. It just, he didn't start the war. He just kept it going. Trump 1.0, he didn't end the war. He just kept it going. Because he knew that when Biden ended the Afghanistan occupation, which doesn't matter because you're back there again anyway. There's still U.S. bases operating in Afghanistan, right? Which the Afghanis are going to get even with those guys once they know that the Iranians are really on the offensive. They're gonna start killing Americans in retribution. You killed 1.5 million of their population, and you can't call them terrorists for getting even. You know what I mean? At that point, it's the same with the Iranians. You're bombing, you've killed thousands of their people. You're killing their truck drivers. But they're all terrorists and everyone who's right. No, it's just no. Some of them are military militia or whatever, IRGC, sure, but not all of them. So and not only that, those IRGC guys, they're defending from invaders. They're defending from countries that did preemptive strikes on them twice. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to call these guys terrorists, you know, because again, if somebody was bombing my country and I started shooting at them, they're going to call me a terrorist. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like it just defies logic. But it's the Bush logic. It really is. It's boomer logic, you know, to really say it. But no, I think this week coming is going to be a step up. The U.S. Abraham Lincoln, if it was struck, it's kind of like the Netanyahu thing. Is Netanyahu still alive? Yes, they're putting up videos with him saying stuff, but it doesn't really give you the dates and times, so you never know. The man might be dead. If we're lucky, he's dead, but that also means there's nobody at the helm, so it could get really fucking crazy. You know, are the Israelis going to nuke the Iranians? Yes. When? I don't know. Are the Iranians going to sink the aircraft carriers? Yes. When? I don't know. Are they going to use the Houthis to do it? Most likely. Because, look, Saudi Arabia is just sitting there going, if we jump in on this, the Houthis are going to fucking steamroll us. You know, and the Houthis are sitting there, they're waiting. They're fucking waiting. Again, it's amazing how quiet. I'm sure they're going to make their debut fairly soon, but it's amazing how quiet they've been sitting. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at about that. I know this has been a long video, but that's where we're at. I'm sure there's stuff I'm missing, but more to come. Yes, the tankers are the things to watch, and the aircraft carriers, obviously. But if there is actual boots on the ground, where are they going to be? Because just dropping them off in the Middle East to make it look like they're doing something, well, you're just adding more targets. You know what I mean? Like these special ops guys that are going to go in and build a base on Iranian shores is like, that's... Yes, you could do it in Iraq. You could do it in Afghanistan. Why? Because the camels took 3 days to get to where you were at. You know what I mean? You can't do it in Iran. They've already, you know, like they've got guys everywhere. They've got, you know, launchers everywhere. They got rocket trucks everywhere. They've got a handful of tanks, sure, but coming out of caves like a T90 variant coming out of caves, you know, like you're not going to get those things with the A-10s. They're more likely. What's more likely to be, you know, your Apache gunship helicopter and A-10s getting knocked out of the sky by air defense systems, or the A-10s. Again, the only reason why the A-10s were able to clean up all the Iraqi tanks is because they had hardly any air defense, right? You know. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, we're going to see what happens. It's going to get worse. Trump is going to double down because he's a fucking genocidal maniac, and it's what they want. Like, they don't care about the American people. No, they're not going to tell us the numbers, but I do believe this is week coming is going to be the week where, you know, like they're not going to be able to hide the numbers as much. Like, you're going to start hearing from, you know, people's families saying, look, I lost contact with my son, daughter, whoever's serving like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard since, and they were at the base where they were hit. And they weren't amongst the war dead or the injured that were told. So it's more like 1,400 injured and probably more like 70 or 80 dead. But they're telling you it's only like, you know, like 14 people dead. But anyway, I digress. You can't believe any of them. It's hard to verify stuff. As I can verify stuff, I will. But just know that all sides are going to lie. The Iranian side's going to lie. They're going to overplay their wins. They're going to underplay their losses. The Americans are overplay their wins and underplay. That's why they're telling you we hit 15,000 targets, because it sounds impressive. Whereas in Desert Storm, it's like we took out this Scud launcher and this S-200 missile system. And here's the S-200 missile system. Why we had to take it out, because it would be dangerous for this and this, and they'd go on big because it would be like this big grandiose thing, like the submarine kill. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they're going to go on for a week about that, so that you're, ooh, yeah, wow, our military is really sticking it to them, right? But to say you hit a truck full of hummus and goat cheese is not really going to be that impressive, right? Wow, that really stops the war. Yeah. So anyway, I digress. So be safe out there. Be fucking stockpiling, because whatever is on the shelf right now is on sale. The next time you do groceries, you're going to faint. Gas prices are like going up like a Soyuz rocket here. You know, because, you know, again, everybody around the world is like, well, my cost of living is going up because of the Americans, right? Like I don't know how the Maple MAGA here's are going to blame Carney for the gas prices going up now. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. Carney's bad, sure, but like, come on, be honest. It's Trump. You know what I mean? And Trump, we got to put Canada under investigation again. Trump can't wait to go to war with us too. We need to get on top of that fast. You know what I mean? We need to start building rockets and drones and whatever. Again, it's going to suck in artillery, lots of artillery, because the thing is that yes, everybody that Trump says he's going to attack or steal, like he's going to, like, look, the Cubans are still suffering big time because of the embargo that is going on with them. They're out of power. They're out of food. The hospitals are shutting down. This is Trump's doing. He's making people suffer for the sake of, Zionism, right? Like he's pure fucking evil. He's pure evil. But Cuba's a communist country. Yeah, but they weren't killing their people, left, right, and center. They weren't trying, yes, it was bad. We can complain about Cuba. Nobody loves it. And again, that's the thing. Just because you don't like the regimes doesn't mean regime change is the answer, right? Like that's the thing. This whole regime change thing, listen to the veterans. They're telling you it didn't work in Iraq, it didn't work in Libya, didn't work in Afghanistan. Like the Taliban's back in power in Afghanistan. The second you leave, bang, there we go. All those people dead for nothing. Just never mind trying to fix the world with your regime changes. That's just about making money for the weapons industry and the Greater Israel Project stuff and whatever. That's why all the wars are around the Middle East and not all over the world. It's because Israel lives there. If Israel lived in Asia, well, we'd be at war with the Asians on their behalf. Again, that's what they do. Prove me wrong. Their own words. It's their own words. They're telling you. Just go listen to the radical rabbis. Like they're hate preachers. Like they hate you. They hate half the people that are going to go fight on their behalf. It's fucking crazy. But yet there they are. Anyway, yeah, stock up. You need at least 2 years worth of food for everybody in your family. I know people are broken. They're just going to panic. Don't panic. Just start working on it. Buy a couple of bags of rice. $8, $12, $10. Even if they're $20 a bag now for a 10-pound bag of rice, whatever it is, just buy it, stockpile it, keep it in jars. Get some oxygen absorbers. You can keep it for a long time. Rice sucks, but starving sucks more. You know what I mean? So stockpile, buy seeds, get everything you need for a garden, because you won't be able to. Most people, even with a lot of property, can't grow enough food to feed everybody in their family with just that. Like, there's a reason why we use grocery stores. But every little bit helps. Victory gardens, guys. Victory gardens. You're going to need them. Because at some point it'll be too dangerous to go to the supermarkets just because of all the rioting that we're about to see when the weather gets warmer. Gonna be nuts. Anyway, there we go. Have yourselves a good day. Be safe. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a good day.